Welcome to the Fantasy Audiobook. Marvel. Meatball Fruit and Save Iron Man at Start. Chapter 81. Everyone sat on the sofa and recalled the battle just now. What do you think, Rogers? Tony said a little seriously. At this time, the Fantastic Four had already returned. Rogers heard this. Thor went home, Banner is missing, and now we may not be able to control the Fantastic Four without Chen Yu's hand. Indeed, the strongest combat forces on the Avengers side are Saul, Hulk, Chen Yu, Vision and Wanda. But Thor and Hulk are not there, and if Chen Yu does not make a move, it is indeed difficult to say who loses and who wins on both sides. Well, they're powerful, that's true, Sam also spoke up. Today he was punched out. Tony said disdainfully. But we are not afraid of them, and we are Avengers, but they are family forces, we can absorb a lot of superheroes in the future, and the Avengers will only get stronger and stronger. Well, Tony has a point. But the Fantastic Four is also a force that we have to value, and it's very good to be able to ally with them this time, we need to take advantage of it, Rogers analyzed. Tony nodded and said, "Don't worry, I have funded them, it is estimated that tomorrow the appropriation will go to Reed's account. And now I am going to share scientific and technological resources with him, and connect the network data lines on both sides of us to share in real time." After speaking, Tony wanted to go to the laboratory, and said while walking, "I can't believe that such a powerful scientist can be oppressed like this." After that, everyone went to do their own things, and Chen Yu and Hannah also returned to the room to warm up, chatting with each other about some interesting things. Chen Yu did not go home in the evening, but stayed another night under Wanda's gentleness, and Wanda, who said goodbye the next day, went home. This time, Chen Yu didn't want to run around, and was ready to wait for Hannah to come back at home intently, and called Hannah to tell him. And Hannah's side will be home in 2 days. Because Chen Yu felt indebted to Hannah, he also stayed at home honestly. 2 nights later, Hannah opened the door and as soon as she entered, she saw Chen Yu asleep on the sofa and horror movies playing on the TV. Hannah smiled happily, walked over and gently kissed Chen Yu's forehead, before lightly running to the room to put away luggage and take a bath. Hannah wrapped in a bath towel after taking a bath and just opened the bathroom door, when she was hugged by Chen Yu from behind. Hannah knew that it was Chen Yu, and did not struggle, turned around and hugged Chen Yu with her backhand, and said with gentle eyes, "Little bear, why don't you sleep? Waited hard for me, right?" Quote. Early the next morning, Hannah just woke up and saw Chen Yu looking at herself gently, and Hannah was not shy, after all, they were old husbands and wives. Leaning his head on Chen Yu's body, he reached out and hugged Chen Yu's waist and whispered, "Little bear, you have worked hard this year. It's me who didn't do my duty as a wife." When Chen Yu heard this, he kissed Hannah even more pityingly, "How come? It's my bad, make so many messes that you need to clean up, you have lost some weight in the past year, tired, right?" Quote. "I'm not tired at all, but I have explained everything this time, and I can rest for most of the year." Hannah smiled and rubbed Chen Yu's face with a smile. "Well, then I don't care about anything for most of the year, follow you every day, I will go wherever you go." Chen Yu hugged Hannah tighter. Hannah said happily, "Well, didn't we say it's good to travel? It just so happens that my mother has already quit her job, and your sister and my brother are already on summer vacation, so let's go traveling." "Okay, where to travel? It doesn't matter where I go, you just decide," Chen Yu also said with a smile. "Then think about it, how about? Well, I'm familiar with it there, can I go somewhere fresher?" Chen Yu didn't want to go in his heart, Chen Yu felt that he was an able person, what if he brought some trouble? It's better to stay away. Anyway, judging from the movie, very calm, and a certain party is also very powerful, and does not care about these ragged things in the United States. In this way, I still want to see the Great Wall, but we go out to travel to Baby Bear, you should wear makeup, right? After all, your identity has been exposed, Hannah said worriedly. Hannah has known that Chen Yu's identity has been exposed in the past few days, and there are still a large number of media to block Hannah. Fortunately, Pepper acted quickly and arranged a lot of bodyguards for Hannah. This allowed Hannah to handle her work well, and it was because of this situation that Pepper agreed that Hannah was now ready to rest for a while. Chen Yu said helplessly, "I won't make up, but my wife will definitely be, you can get it for me when the time comes." "Okay, I'll definitely paint you beautifully." Chen Yu felt that his decision to rest this time was too correct, and when he returned home with Hannah, Chen Yu felt very warm, and he could completely relax, forget Thanos, and forget everything. After getting up, the two called their parents to come here for dinner, and then began to get busy. Chen Yu went to buy vegetables, and Hannah cleaned up the dust accumulated in the house because no one lived in it for a long time. During the period, thinking that his sister Chen Wen and Hannah's brother were coming, Chen Yu remembered that the signed poster last time fell in the Avengers building, so he quickly came to the Avengers building to take out the poster. And let Tony get an extra copy. After all, Hannah's brother must also give it to his sister, and this time even the poster of the new Fantastic Four let Tony get a copy. After getting the poster, Chen Yu quickly came to read in their building, saw the four people eating breakfast, so he quickly asked all four to sign it. Among them, Johnny is very proud that even the younger siblings of the superhero Tyrant Bear want their own signed posters, but the Stone Man is already uncomfortable. It was difficult to squeeze a pen, and I finally signed my name on 2 posters. After the 4 of them signed their names, Chen Yu took the poster and disappeared in place, returned home, and quickly showed Hannah the poster he had prepared for his younger siblings. Hannah saw that even the newly appeared Fantastic Four heroes knew that Chen Yu was very attentive to his brother, and happily had a long kiss with Chen Yu. The two cleaned up together and quickly cleaned the house, and then Chen Yu washed the vegetables and Hannah cooked, a warm picture of blind date and love. When it was almost noon, Chen Yu and Hannah's family appeared at Chen Yu's door together, and Chen Yu heard the doorbell and quickly went over to open the door. "Brother, what do I want to sign? It's been a few days." As soon as the door opened, her sister Chen Wen rushed in, pulled Chen Yu's arm and shook it. Hannah's younger brother looked at Chen Wen enviously on the side. Chen Yu smiled and said hello to his parents and mother-in-law before saying to his younger siblings, "I haven't forgotten, I prepared 2 copies, even the new Fantastic Four heroes." "Huh, do I have it too? Great, brother-in-law is the best." Hannah's brother was overjoyed to hear that he had it too. Since he learned that his brother-in-law was the superhero Tyrant Bear a few days ago, this young man adored Chen Yu very much and already regarded Chen Yu as his idol. After Chen Wen was happy, he also asked Chen Yu suspiciously, "Brother, how come there is even a signed poster of the new Fantastic Four? They didn't sell posters, did they?" Quote, "Oh, this is the photo we got when we were in an alliance with the Avengers, a collector's edition, and they won't have these posters when they sell them in the future," Chen Yu said with a smile. "Oh, have you allied with those 4 new superpowers?" At this time, Chen Shang, who was already sitting on the sofa, looked at Chen Yu suspiciously. As for her mother, Wang Yang and her mother-in-law have gone to the kitchen to help Hannah cook. When Chen Yu heard this, he also sat down on the sofa next to Chen Shang and said, "Yes, although these 4 people have just appeared, they are very capable, and one of them has great potential." I pointed him out. "Oh, that's Mr. Fantastic in the middle." Chen Yu quickly took the poster of Chen Wen next to him and pointed it to Chen Shang. "Oh, I remember that his body can stretch, like an eraser." "Forget it, I don't understand this. People outside say that you are the most imaginative child, but you look at you now, you have already grown up, and you can make your own decisions." Chen Shang sighed the passage of time, and in the blink of an eye, the baby with meatballs on the palm of his hand that was placed at the door of the house was now married, and it brought earth-shaking changes to the family. After the meal, everyone went to the table, and at the table, everyone agreed to go on a trip and discussed where to travel. First of all, the tourist location is unanimously set in Asia. After all, everyone grew up in the United States, and the culture in Europe and the United States is similar, which is not attractive for a 2-month trip. In Africa and the Middle East, one is blessed with oil and war, and the other is poor and war-torn with war. Australia is good, but it is good to see animals, and if you want to see a different culture, you still have to Asia. And Chen Yu doesn't want to go. Chen Shang and Wang Yang also feel that it's not time yet, when the work can't move, want to retire and go back. In the end, there was an argument between the 2 countries of Han and Japan. Hannah plus Wang Yang and Chen Yu's mother-in-law hope to go to Han country, and women in the United States have been more or less influenced by Korean dramas in recent years. And Chen Yu and his father Chen Shang and Hannah's younger brother advocated going to Japan. Chen Yu chose Japan because he was curious about the country where his ability came from, and because of his admiration for Japanese action movies in his previous life. Dad Chen Zhang's view is much more normal, because Japan is the country most influenced by the culture of the Celestial Empire. Among the Eastern and Western cultures, the representative of Eastern culture is undoubtedly the Celestial Empire. Hannah's younger brother came to Japan to see the so-called otaku culture because of the anime wave in recent years, and Hannah's younger brother is an otaku. In the end, the men prevailed. After all, Hannah listens to Chen Yu in everything, and Wang Yang is similar, listening to her son and husband in everything. Hannah's mother was eaten to death by her precious son. So Chen Yu immediately decided to leave for Japan 2 days later, and let Hannah make arrangements for these 2 days. Hannah, who has been following Pepper for nearly 2 years, is still very good at these little things. 2 days later, the family came to Japan on the private plane that Tony had given Chen Yu for Hannah's work convenience and began a 2-month trip. In the past 2 months, Chen Yu has cut off contact with the Avengers, playing this and that with his family every day, so uncomfortable. Something also happened during this time. The new Avengers training base was built. This made Chen Yu, who saw Tony's email, sigh that such a big project could be completed in 2 months. What a vicious capitalism. And the new Avengers made their first sorties more than a month ago, but the opponent was not a terrorist but Victor Von Doom. Victor also gained the ability because he was also irradiated by cosmic rays, and his body became metal and charged, and he could also absorb electricity, which was a bit similar to the Electric Light Man before. This time, the Avengers received a distress call from the Fantastic Four, and for the reason that the alliance was set at that time, Rogers decided to let the new Avengers, who had not yet been run in, dispatch. One is to rescue the Avengers' allies, and the other is to take the opportunity to hone the new Avengers. However, Doom is indeed powerful, and the Avengers can't get Doom at first, just pressing Doom and beating him, but causing no substantial damage. Although Vision has a meat shield-like Vision on the front, and a mage like Wanda in the back. But because of the lack of the presence of Tony and Chen Yu, it was also very difficult to fight. Tony began to do public welfare everywhere because the Sokovia incident was getting worse and worse, and his heart was tormented. And Tony has long said that he will not participate in the actions of the Avengers. The Avengers, who could not take Doom for a long time, finally made a statue of Doom with the help of the Fantastic Four who rushed to help, first burning Doom and then cooling it. At the press conference after that, the new Avengers and the Fantastic Four attended together, and announced the news of the alliance, which immediately caused an uproar among the public. And it has made governments more and more fearful and unbearable of these lawless superpowers. That's what happened in those 2 months. School is still a few days away, and Chen Yu's family has returned to the United States. The trip was a pleasure for the family. Especially Chen Wen and Hannah's younger brother, both adolescent children play crazy. After returning home, Chen Yu still kissed me with Hannah, and I lived a small life, and Chen Yu did not go to Wanda again. After another 5 months, Hannah's 2 assistants have urged Hannah many times, and this time Hannah must go back to work. On this day, Chen Yu was about to send Hannah on the plane, but a phone call from Tony asked Chen Yu to keep Hannah. Baby bear, tomorrow Reed and Susan get married, invite us to participate, you bring Hannah with you, Tony said as soon as he came up. Why take Hannah? How? Pepper is also going to attend. Chen Yu was very puzzled. Well, Pepper and I have broken up peacefully. There's nothing wrong with either side. You know, last time I blew up all the steel suits in front of Pepper, but I found that I couldn't put it down. Well, understood, so what? Chen Yu knows that Tony and Pepper will split sooner or later. You ask why Chen Yu will know. Of course, because Tony himself said to Rogers in the previous life of Captain America 3. Tony said a little helplessly, that Pepper will also attend tomorrow. We are meeting now a little different than before, you should be able to think. After a pause, Tony continued. Stark Industries is Reed's patron. Reed wants to marry Susan, of course, to invite Pepper, and because Reed and Susan's special status, Pepper also needs to participate. Okay, I understand. Tomorrow I will take Hannah over. By the way, I will directly hand Hannah over to Pepper. Today I was going to send Hannah away. Chen Yu said to Tony after thinking about it. Well, okay, also, all the Avengers will participate this time, and the media is also paying attention to this wedding of the century. After all, it is the wedding between the first pair of superheroes. And after the wedding, Rogers wants the two of us to stay and discuss with the Fantastic Four about the magician who spoke up 3 months ago to stabilize the world and protect the world from invasion by other multidimensional spaces. Tony's tone was more serious this time. 3 months ago, the man in the red cloak who claimed to be the guardian of magic and 2 companions fought an equally powerful group of people in Hong Kong. And in the end, the gang of people who are not good people at first glance summoned a monster from another space and almost invaded this world, but was stopped by Doctor Strange. He said that there is one of their temples in Hong Kong, as well as in several places such as the United Kingdom, and that their magical guardians have been protecting the world from the invasion of alien monsters. This incident made Rogers and Tony very important, because it represented the emergence of another lurking force on Earth, and judging by Doctor Strange's statement, he should be able to become an ally of the Avengers. This bizarre doctor, a famous surgeon named Stephen Strange, was involved in a car accident that made all the fingers of his hands connected with steel nails, but he could no longer hold a scalpel. So Stephen scattered his family wealth to heal his hands, but ended up in poverty, and then suddenly disappeared for several months. Only this time did the matter appear in front of the public again, and changed his identity. Supreme Mage. Thinking of this, Chen Yu said to Tony on the other end of the phone, "No problem, let's talk about it tomorrow, hang up." Then turned to Hannah to explain to Reed and Susan's wedding tomorrow and told Hannah that Pepper would also go, and after Hannah agreed to attend Reed's wedding with Chen Yu tomorrow, the two went out for a while and then returned home to watch horror movies. In the early morning, Chen Yu, who was still asleep, suddenly felt a cold and huge force flash from above. Chen Yu opened his eyes, and sighed with relief after feeling it with his sight. Chen Yu, who turned over and changed into a comfortable position, hugged Hannah and slept, thought in his heart, so it's him, really the plot starts again. The next morning, Chen Yu and Hannah watched the morning news while eating breakfast. I saw that the news anchor on the TV was fluently telling the content of the news. Heavy snow fell suddenly, without warning, without changing temperatures, and no one believed that this was the weather in September. The pyramids were covered with 2 feet of snow, and the southern bay of Japan was suddenly frozen, which some thought was caused by submarine volcanic activity, but no such geological activity has ever been reported in the area. Scientists have ruled out global warming as the cause of this extreme climate around the world. Experts were unable to explain the situation, and some even began to think that it was God's will. The news anchor said that the picture changed and came to the outside of the Baxter Building in Reed in Manhattan, New York. Now on the other air, the wedding of Reed Charlize and Susan Storm has caused a sensation throughout New York. The guest list includes all the new and old Avengers except Hawkeye, as well as many New York political and business elites, which will be broadcast live for you later. Hearing this, Chen Yu suddenly turned his head and asked Hannah, "Wife, where are you going back after Pepper and Pepper attend the wedding?" Quote. Hannah didn't know why Chen Yu asked this, but she still replied obediently, "After attending the wedding, we are going to the UK, and there are some things that we need to deal with." Chen Yu nodded when he heard this, and didn't say anything. At the same time, Chen Yu was also relieved in his heart, just didn't stay in New York. New York is estimated to suffer again. Chen Yu also admires New York. After so many wars, especially in Manhattan, every time can quickly rebuild those destroyed buildings. It's incredible. Then Chen Yu and Hannah watched the scene on the news for a while yesterday, when Reed was pulled by Johnny to go to the pre-wedding bachelor party and then rubber dance. This made Hannah laugh while watching, and said to Chen Yu, "Didn't you say that Dr. Reed is very serious? How can there be such a time?" Quote. Chen Yu also laughed and said, "It is estimated that as soon as I was encouraged by the beautiful woman next to me, I played high, ha." In the news, Reed is called away by a general led by a dangerous-looking Susan. Chen Yu knew that the general had asked Reed to help make something. This time, none of the Avengers took a plane or anything to attend the wedding, and all the Avengers, including Chen Yu, drove to the Baxter Building in luxury cars and followed the police cars that had blocked the route to lead the way. Chen Yu also drove a moldy supercar from the garage. These two are gifts from Tony when Chen Yu and Hannah got married at the age of 18, and Chen Yu only drove twice before finding that the traffic in New York was too congested, and Chen Yu himself had the ability to ball meat, so he never drove again. After driving for most of the way, Chen Yu and Tony joined them, and they drove 3 cars, all of which were limited edition sports cars that Tony collected and modified like Chen Yu. And Johnny also took his new girlfriend who has not been dating for a week, and also drove 2 supercars to the front and follow the police car. Before he arrived at the Baxter building, Chen Yu was stunned by the sea of people who had already gone out with a police cordon next to him, leaving only one lane, surrounded by people, and countless reporters inside frantically taking pictures of Chen Yu and their convoy. This is much more luxurious than my wedding, Hannah. I'm really sorry for you, obviously I have the ability to give you a better wedding. Chen Yu looked at Hannah next to him and said, "How come, little bear, our wedding is my favorite. Only relatives, friends, how good it is." Hannah looked at Chen Yu gently. Chen Yu stretched out his right hand that did not hold the steering wheel and stopped Hannah's small hand, not speaking. After the Avengers and Johnny's cars were parked, everyone got out of the car. Suddenly the scene was boiling. Johnny did not go to the police cordon and looked at the reporters in front of him and said loudly, "Hey, everyone listen, today is my sister's big day, the most important day in her life, please respect our privacy, okay?" Then Johnny looked at the atmosphere after hearing his words and laughed. "I'm joking, after all, I have already told the New York Times that they are allowed exclusive interviews, look, their helicopters are already in place." People looked up and sure enough, a helicopter was hovering in the air to broadcast the pre-wedding conditions. At this time, a reporter saw Johnny hugging the tall blonde woman who came down from the other side of the car door and asked, "May I ask what is the secret of your relationship with Thunderfire?" Quote, "The beauty is not stage frightened, it seems that Baj should be a supermodel, smiling at the camera, fireproof lingerie, and preferably in the bathroom." The beautiful woman's humorous answer also caused a burst of laughter on the field. And the Avengers here also attracted a large number of reporters, shooting at them non-stop. Everyone was okay, all wearing suits, very formal. Tony and Roddy are even more old churros in the media, while Vision doesn't have much human emotions at all. Rogers is in a straight suit and very handsome, and Natasha is also elegant and generous in her dress. Only Wanda and Sam were not too used to this scene, hiding behind a few people without speaking. At this time, Chen Yu also took Hannah over to meet several people. Wanda looked at Chen Yu and Hannah with complicated expressions on the side. This was the first time Wanda saw Hannah. And Hannah seemed to be because of a woman's intuition, and looked at Wanda at a glance. Wanda forced a smile in a little panic and nodded to Hannah, who also smiled and nodded in response to Wanda. Hannah is now very natural to face the media, which makes Chen Yu feel that the shy girl who was not sociable before has finally grown into an independent woman. At this time, seeing Chen Yu and Hannah holding hands, a reporter immediately asked Chen Yu loudly, "Mr. Chen Yu, this is your first public appearance, and you are still with your wife. Do you have anything you want to say to the people of New York?" Quote, Chen Yu was not flustered, and said with a smile, "The traffic in New York is too congested. Tony's car was given to me 2 years ago, and this time is the 3rd time I drove it." The surrounding crowd burst into laughter when they heard this. "What about Miss Hannah? Do you have anything to say? You got married in high school. Do you have any tips for catching such a powerful and golden superhero early?" Quote, "I would like to thank everyone for their continued support of Little Bear. Little Bear is now ready to rest. I hope you will not be too disappointed. As for the secret to catching him, of course it is love." After speaking, Hannah sweetly took Chen Yu's arm and forcibly fed the New Yorker dog food. And it has enhanced Chen Yu's image. You must know that Chen Yu is also a rich man, and no one else knew what Chen Yu's life was like before, and they all guessed that it should be similar to Tony's before. After all, Chen Yu is so young and so rich, few people believe that Chen Yu does not indulge. But now seeing Chen Yu and Hannah so sweet, and indeed never taken photos of Chen Yu's indulgent life, plus Chen Yu and Hannah got married in high school, which makes everyone think that Chen Yu may be the perfect good man out of 10,000. Chen Yu himself glanced at Wanda behind him with some weakness. Wanda returned a playful smile after feeling it. Tony was also asked some questions by the reporters, and they were all confused by their vague words, which made the reporters a little disappointed. This was decided by Rogers before he came, not to show the Avengers' intentions externally, so as not to cause trouble. "Mr. Captain, you are the leader of the Avengers. May I ask what you think about Doctor Strange, who appeared 3 months ago? Will it be allied with it the same as it is with the Fantastic Four?" Quote, Suddenly, a reporter asked a more eye-catching question, and suddenly everyone around and the camera focused on Rogers, wanting Rogers' answer. Rogers was also stunned, and then smiled and said, "Regarding whether to contact the Alliance, we are still discussing internally. As for what I think of him, anyone who protects the world is my friend and will have the help of us, the Avengers, when needed." After that, everyone followed Johnny into the Baxter building. Chen Yu and they came to the top floor, which has been completely decorated as a wedding scene, where many people eat casually and chat, and some waiters are interspersed in the crowd to serve people. As soon as Chen Yu and their Avengers came, they caused a sensation, but the people standing on the top floor were all business and political elites except for the waiters. Or the relatives and friends of the Fantastic Four are very qualified, and when Chen Yu eats and drinks, they only occasionally come to talk or something. Chen Yu and Hannah also met Pepper in the crowd, and Pepper came to everyone and hugged Hannah warmly before greeting everyone one by one. Then Pepper deliberately ignored Tony, who was standing awkwardly on the side, and said to Chen Yu with a smile, "Chen Yu, you are such a good husband, who has been playing with Hannah and her family in Japan for 2 months. This is really envious of me. I can only sit in a cold office and deal with things that can never be handled." Next to Tony was even more embarrassed. Fortunately, this embarrassment did not last long, and the groom came out. The surroundings began to quiet down, and everyone sat down on both sides in a very tacit agreement. A path has been paved with blankets in the middle. Reed quickly ran to the end of the road and stood next to the priest. At the end of the road was a small pavilion with a priest, next to the priest stood Reed, and at the bottom of the steps stood a stone man in a suit on the left, and on the right a black woman. This black woman was very beautiful and looked calm and elegant. But Chen Yu lied, this woman is blind, and her eyes can't see at all. Chen Yu immediately knew that this should be the person loved by the stone man, and after Ben got the ability, his original wife took off her wedding ring on the bridge and ran away because she couldn't accept the appearance of the stone man. Later, Ben wanted to change back to her original form, but she was impressed by the blind but intelligent woman, and chose to continue to be a human being in order to help her friend when she could already recover her body. The wedding march began to play at the scene, and Susan and Johnny also appeared in front of everyone, a man and a woman, 2 children carrying Susan's wedding dress behind. Susan slowly walked to the priest with her brother Johnny in her arm. Johnny also solemnly handed Susan's hand into Reed's hand. Then the two turned to face the priest. "Dear friends, we are gathered here today to participate in the couple's marriage of Reed Richards and Susan Storm to a sacred." When the priest said this, a cell phone-like thing in Reed's pocket rang. What is Reed doing? Does marriage still have to fiddle with his technology? Even someone as unorthodox as Tony finds it a little strange. Reed looked a little anxious, and after a few quick strokes, he put the instrument in his pocket again and signaled that the priest could continue. But before the priest said 2 words, Reed's instrument rang again, and this time Chen Yu also stood up. Here it is again, that cold but powerful power. Tony's Friday also detected something that was being reported to Tony. Seeing Chen Yu and Tony's appearance, Rogers also realized that something was wrong, and quickly gestured to the Avenger, and all the Avengers stood up and remained vigilant. Although those people next to them felt inexplicable, when they saw the situation of the Avengers, they suddenly felt something, and they were all a little flustered. At this time, the whole of New York suddenly had a power outage, and Tony immediately said to Rogers, "It's that energy force field again, the one I told you about yesterday." And the New York Times plane that conducted the live broadcast of the wedding on it also fell slowly because the operating console suddenly ran out of power, and the place where it fell happened to be the wedding scene. "Chen Yu, go on, get the plane away, we don't have any equipment," Rogers quickly said to Chen Yu when he saw the plane fall. Chen Yu nodded, gave Hannah next to him a reassuring look, and suddenly appeared in front of the plane door above, and first slapped the pilot and photographer inside. Then another slap on the plane. The people around saw Chen Yu appear in front of the plane, and then waved his hand at the plane, and the plane disappeared. After shooting the plane, Chen Yu appeared next to Hannah again, and suddenly the people around him looked at Chen Yu and let out loud applause. Pepper next to him suddenly pointed to the sky and shouted, "Look, what is that?" Quote. Everyone looked up and saw a white figure streaking across the sky. After this happens, the Avengers have no intention of seeing Doctor Strange again. After all, this may be another alien invasion. Tony's side also needs some time to analyze the situation, combined with the world's heterogeneous data to analyze what the other party wants to do. Chen Yu, on the other hand, was thinking about the Silver Surfer and the upcoming planet Devourer at this time. In the movie Chen Yu watched in the previous life, the scene of the planet Devourer coming to the Earth was very shocking, and the size was larger than the Earth, which made Chen Yu a little unimaginable. It is true that after Chen Yu developed the elastic stance, the force field around his body was invulnerable, but it was only limited to keeping Chen Yu safe. And then what about Earth? What about everyone else? Do you want Chen Yu to wait for the Earth to perish and then run to other planets such as Asgard? The main thing is that the opponent's body is too large, and Chen Yu doesn't know how to bounce the opponent, although from the end of the movie, the other party should have a core. Fortunately, the planet Devourer in the movie is 2D, and it was actually destroyed by the Silver Surfer using the surfboard, a weapon that can use cosmic energy infinitely as long as it is connected, to concentrate an excess of cosmic energy explosion and die together. If this is the Planet Eater in the comics, it is really a bit desperate. The Planet Eater in the comics is one of the 5 gods of the Marvel Universe, the only survivor after the explosion of the last universe, referred to as Star Swallowing. The Silver Surfer's cosmic energy amount is given by the Star Swallow, which gives the Silver Surfer a near-indestructible body, and the powerful power that unlimited cosmic energy can use after connecting with the surfboard. And in the comics, Star Swallowing was not destroyed, but was created by Reed to create a weapon that could destroy gods and threaten Star Swallowing to make him swear not to devour the Earth again. Bog. Now that Chen Yu wants to meet the movie version of Star Swallowing, it should be no problem to give the task of killing Star Swallowing to Silver Surfer. And at the end of the movie, the Silver Surfer and the Star Swallow died together. It seems that the Silver Surfer's body is still as indestructible as in the comics, and the surfboard is not rotten, but floating in outer space. This gave Chen Yu a chance. Yes, Chen Yu wanted to get a surfboard for Wanda. Wanda has been the Avenger, and the Vengeance is fighting, and it is inevitable that there will be times when carelessly hurt. If you give the surfboard to Wanda, not only can you protect Wanda and make it stronger, but the most important thing is that this surfboard can greatly improve Wanda's mobility. Wanda can fly well, but Chen Yu, who has seen Wanda fly at full strength, just wants to snort twice about its flight speed. If he helps Wanda get surfing this time, it will be Chen Yu's compensation for Wanda. After all, Chen Yu really felt that he was such a scumbag, and he was sorry for Wanda. As for how to get a surfboard, Chen Yu probably has already planned a way. First of all, the surfboard will be snatched away by Dumb, which Chen Yu does not allow. Who knows that this time, because the Avengers are allies of the Fantastic Four, Dumb will dare to snatch the skateboard and come back to take revenge. What if Doom grabs the skateboard and runs? The Earth depends on skateboards and Silver Surfers. Secondly, when the Surfer and the Star Swallow died together, Chen Yu decided to watch from the sidelines at that time, and when it exploded, he would use the invincible defense of his elastic position to grab the surfboard. Otherwise, the explosion does not know where the surfboard will be blown up. Thinking of this, Chen Yu was full of expectations for the next thing. And through Tony has been keeping an eye on the Fantastic Four. 2 days later, Chen Yu received a call from Tony asking Chen Yu to go to the Avengers building and then go to a military base together. Last time the Black General invited the Fantastic Four and the Avengers because of what happened this morning, it was about the safety of the world. However, Doctor Strange was not invited. Perhaps this Black General is more interested in the technological ability of the repeat enemy and the Fantastic Four. In the past 2 days, the Fantastic Four has made some news. What Thunderbolt fire Johnny can suddenly be invisible, and the Invisible Woman Susan suddenly turned into a ball of fire and flew. There are even photos of Susan crawling naked in the ground to make an ugly appearance. Chen Yu learned from Tony that it was because Thunderfire's abilities had been unstable since the last contact with the Silver Surfer, and he could exchange abilities with the other 3 Fantastic Four that he came into contact with. Even this morning, during the 3rd big pothole in the Hudson River in New York, he almost killed innocent people because Johnny was in bad shape. Chen Yu and the Avengers came to the military base and met the Fantastic Four, who also arrived, and after a few simple conversations, they went to the conference room to meet the general. As soon as he saw him, the Black General yelled at Reed, "What is that? What the hell are you doing?" Quote. Reed quickly explained when he heard this, "We need to adjust, next time we will be ready." Chen Yu interjected, puzzled at this time, and asked, how? That pothole was made by the Fantastic Four. Chen Yu was puzzled. That thing should have been made by the Silver Surfer, right? Rogers also looked at the Black General with a bad face and said to Chen Yu, no, that thing appeared suddenly. What? After hearing this, Chen Yu suddenly looked at the Black General with a disgusted expression, and instantly appeared in front of the Black General and reached out and pressed the General's forehead. How do you want to die? Chen Yu said lightly. Hey, baby bear, this guy is a novice, calm down. Tony's tone didn't matter. After thinking about it, Rogers still said to Chen Yu, forget it, Chen Yu, now it is most important to get down to business first. And the Black General said in a deep voice, what do you want to do? You want to slaughter military dignitaries? Are you Avengers going to war with the country? Quote. Seeing this situation, Reed quickly spoke up. Don't get excited, Chen Yu, we almost had a problem when we saved people today. Shut up. Chen Yu looked at Reed with a dangerous face, and then whispered to the Black General in front of him, are you threatening me? And, quote. The Black General did not believe that Chen Yu would really make a move. Yes, I represent the country, do you dare to move me? What kind of Avengers? It will only be just a few people with some ability. Wow, 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 now it's a big deal. Tony looked at the play. Rogers didn't say anything more when he heard this, anything. After hearing the Black General's words, Chen Yu lowered his right hand on his forehead, and just when the Black General wanted to leak ridicule, Chen Yu suddenly grabbed the Black General's left hand expressionlessly and pulled it hard. The Black General's left arm was ripped off alive. Ah! The Black General directly covered his left arm in pain and sweated profusely, but this Black General was still a little backboned, and looked at Chen Yu with hatred and shouted, you really dare to attack me? The soldier obeyed the order and killed the tyrant bear. Although the dozen soldiers around were not optimistic about their victory rate after the attack, after all, they were facing the Avengers, but the soldiers just needed to obey orders, so they all raised their guns and prepared to shoot at Chen Yu. Seeing that the scene was about to get out of control, and the Fantastic Four couldn't react a little, Chen Yu's overlord color was domineering, and he radiated out to the surrounding soldiers. Suddenly, the dozen or so soldiers around them all rolled their eyes and fell to the ground. Except for the female captain next to the general, who pointed a gun at Chen Yu but was not ready to shoot. But Chen Yu still looked at the Black General in front of him, who kept going down in pain. And, the next is the right hand, I hope you hold on, I don't want to see you pass out. When this Black General saw the soldiers inexplicably, he remembered Chen Yu's method of attacking the enemy with momentum. He had never believed it before, because there was a video of that kind of attack, because the Zeteri army of the Battle of New York and later Ultron's Iron Legion were not greeted by the Overlord color domineering. So Chen Yu did not use it in these two big battles. Therefore, although Ultron announced that Chen Yu still had this attack method, many high-ranking military officials did not believe it. MD, we have held the power of life and death for decades, and our whole body is domineering with side leaks, and I haven't seen anyone who can attack the enemy with momentum, let alone a young man in his 20s. At this time, the Black General was finally a little afraid, but he still couldn't understand why Chen Yu dared to deal with him. You will regret it, you are at war with the country, you will be court-martialed. The Black General swallowed. I am a majority shareholder of Stark Industries and Osborne Enterprises, and a member of the Avengers. I am a strong person myself, and I never take the initiative to cause trouble. I bet that if you run to the dignitaries and the Minister of Defense and kowtow for 3 days, they will not agree to send troops against me. Maybe even court-martial to appease me. Now, ready, I'm going to rip off your right hand. Chen Yu was not threatened by the Black General in the slightest, and said lightly. The Black General listened to Chen Yu tell the truth about the end he might get. His face became more and more frightened, and finally only despair remained. After listening to Chen Yu's words, the Black General slowly asked with some hoarseness, I want to know why you made a move on me. I didn't mess with you. At this time, the Fantastic Four, who were already dumbfounded, were also beside him, wondering why Chen Yu suddenly lost his temper and attacked this Black General. The Avengers, on the other hand, looked at all this coldly, thinking that this general was really stupid. Reed also hurriedly asked, Yes, Mr. Chen Yu, I don't understand why you want to make a move against the general. Quote. When Chen Yu heard this, he yelled at Reed angrily, the mud can't support the wall, and then ignored Reed and turned around and continued to stretch out his hand to the black general. Alas, enough Chen Yu, that's it. This lesson is enough. Just go back and ask Tony to mention this person's affairs to the Secretary of State. Rogers finally stopped it. Chen Yu didn't say anything more when he heard this, turned around and walked to the Avengers' side and fell silent. The female captain was relieved to see this, put down her gun and quickly bandaged the black general. Tony came out and looked at Reed in disappointment, then looked at the black general and said, "You still don't know the reason. Ridius, we Avengers and Fantastic Four are strong. Who gave you the courage to yell at Reed's 7? Something happened when they rescued civilians, and they almost killed ordinary people, shouldn't they say?" The black general was unconvinced. "Yes, Tony, blame us, almost got into an accident," Reed said guiltily after looking at Johnny. "Hee, you blame yourself for this is your business. To be honest, even if you don't save people, others can't say anything, right? It's not your obligation," Tony said disdainfully, then turned to look at the black general. "You're asking someone to do something. Last time we were very dissatisfied with your attitude towards our ally Reed. This time you actually directly questioned Reed because of this kind of thing. Who do you think you are? The strong have the dignity of the strong, and the weak should have the appearance of the weak, not to mention that you are still asking others to do things." Tony talked. After Tony finished speaking, Rogers came out and looked at Reed and said, "This is the case, we are superheroes, we can maintain the peace of the world ourselves, why cooperate with these narrow-minded and interest-oriented government or military people?" Quote, "Tony has shared resources with you, we have our own satellites, we have our own intelligence analysis, we just want to protect world peace according to our own ideas, and we are no longer subject to governments. Otherwise, why do you think I destroyed S.H.I.E.L.D.? Quote, Reed looked uncertain when he heard this. After hearing this, the black general shouted, "The Fantastic Four can't handle this matter by himself, so we are looking for you, and we have found someone else, he has contact with aliens, you need this information." This black general really disrespects a strong man like the Fantastic Four, and thinks that everything is under his control. No wonder Reed, who is a little cowardly in the movie, can't help but turn his face with him. Reed immediately asked, "What? Who did you find? Have you actually been in contact with aliens?" Quote, "Gee, Reed, you're still so cowardly that even your ally Avengers can't stand it." At this time, a man in a suit walked in from the backstage and taunted Reed. "What, Victor? Quote, impossible, aren't you dead? General, do you know who he is and let him help?" The Fantastic Four were stunned, even Wanda, who had fought Victor. "Hee, why, are you afraid of ghosts? Don't you say that the Tyrant Bear is worthy of being a Tyrant Bear? I used to wonder that you came with this title, but now I finally figured it out." Victor looked at Chen Yu, and Chen Yu's actions made Victor more convinced that strength was the root of everything. Chen Yu looked at him expressionlessly, which disappointed Vic. The stone man rushed up in a few steps and choked Victor's neck and shouted, "If you were really a ghost, then you must not care if I twist your neck, right?" Quote, "Victor is now my subordinate, let him go." The black general looked at Reed, hoping that Reed would let Ben let go of Victor. Reed thought for a while before saying, "Release him, Ben, it's an extraordinary time, we need his intelligence." Ben had no choice but to let go of Victor. "Rogers, I think this general has an unknown deal with Victor," Tony whispered to Rogers. Rogers thought for a while and said, "Not bad, Chen Yu, you forced him, if it were you, it should be able to scare him. Rogers is a chicken thief. Ha, let's not talk about intelligence, I'm more interested in the Avengers, how? Mr. Captain, do you think I can join the Avengers?" Quote, Victor touched his neck a little uncomfortably before saying to Rogers, "I'm afraid not, you only pursue power, and you don't want to protect the world, so it's different." Rogers refused without hesitation. "Oh, if I'm not mistaken, the Tyrant Bear on your team is probably similar to mine, right? It is also in the pursuit of strength that is so powerful." When Rogers heard this, he immediately retorted, "Yes, Chen Yu is pursuing strength, but he is to have the strength to protect his family and friends, and he is our indispensable reliable comrade in arms." Saying that, Rogers made a look at Chen Yu, and after Chen Yu saw it, he instantly appeared in front of Victor and said lightly, "Tell your intelligence, we will not let the military interfere this time." "What? How dare you? Victor was invited by me. This time it is a military operation, not a family, please think clearly." The black general's face changed drastically. Chen Yu also ignored the black general, slowly stretched out his hand to Victor and said, "Although I don't know what deal you have with this general, but I count 3 times, if you don't tell the information, I will kill you first, and then we Avengers will find the intelligence ourselves." Reed next to him heard the words and wanted to stop it, but was pulled by Ben and Johnny, and Susan stood by a little anxious without an idea. "Well," I said, "I have a video of contact with that creature and I found some intelligence from it." Victor looked at the expressionless tyrant bear in front of him, thinking that he had ripped off the black general's left arm without saying a word just now, and had to compromise unwillingly. Victor's original intention was to help the black general catch the creature and then seize the surfboard, but now it seems that everything is in vain. However, Tokto feels that as long as he helps the Avengers and the Fantastic Four save the world this time, then at least he can recover his free body. So everyone ignored the black general and let Chen Yu photograph everyone in the Avengers building, and then Victor took out a disc to play his meeting with the Silver Surfer. In the video, the Silver Surfer says to Victor, "All your knowledge will be over," and is knocked down by a cosmic energy from the Silver Surfer, after which the Silver Surfer flies away. "I love the part where he broke your ass," Ben scoffed at Victor after watching the video. Johnny also snickered next to him. Ignoring Ben's taunts, Victor said to the crowd, "Now let's look at the flow of energy when he attacks me," and said to slow down the attack in the video. Then everyone found that when the Silver Surfer attacked Victor, energy first appeared on the surfboard, then energy poured into the Silver Surfer's body, then to the arm, and finally sent out an energy impact. Reed also saw clearly. Energy flows through his body, but energy comes from his surfboard. Victor next to him was about to speak when Tony interrupted. "If we can separate him from his energy plate, then we can cut off his energy source." "How?" Rogers said. Victor shook his head and said, "If I know that I still need to ask the general to find you." Quote. Rogers heard this and looked at Tony. Tony saw it and said, "It will take some time if I'm alone, but now that Reed is here, the two of us should be able to figure it out in a short time." Reed also nodded when he heard this. This was the first time Reed had worked with Tony, who was also known as one of the smartest people in the world, and he was a little excited. "Okay, you guys get to work, the rest of us will start preparing for battle. By the way, let Friday find the location of the creature. If he is ready to destroy the sensor directly like last time, then we will fight him." Rogers began to divide the work. Then everyone was ready at the Avengers mansion, and Chen Yu was pulled into the room by Wanda to complain. Tony and Reed came up with a way to use tachyon pulses to create a pulsed force field in a certain area, causing the Silver Surfer to lose connection with his surfboard. Then the two began to make the tachyon pulsator, which had all the materials here, and it was finished early the next morning. Rogers, who learned the news, sighed about the power. After all, Rogers himself got an ability because of the power of science. Chen Yu said next to him, "Compared with technology, I believe in my own strength. Technology is easy to be robbed, but no one can take my own power." Chen Yu's words attracted the praise of several people who relied on ability. At this time, Vision ran to the hall and said, "According to Friday's calculations with Dr. Reed and Mr. Tony about the appearance of the pothole, there will be a pothole in the northern forest in half an hour, and the Silver Surfer should also go by then." Rogers immediately said, "Guys, give you minutes to prepare everything. We need to quickly arrive at the battlefield and arrange the pulse force field in advance." Everyone heard that the dressed and the one who took the equipment, and after a few minutes, everyone appeared in the forest. "Guys, there are military troops surrounding here, what should I do?" Tony's voice came. "Leave them alone, get rid of the Silver Surfers first. Natasha, you go and contact the military first, hold them down," Rogers ordered. "Okay," Natasha heard and walked outside. Then Tony, Susan, Vision, and Reed began laying out pulsing force fields in all directions. Just when the other 3 parties had already been arranged and Susan was only one step away, Susan's somewhat trembling voice came over. "Everyone, we're in trouble, he's already to me." "What?" "Susan, get out of there, we'll go to support right away," Reed said anxiously. On Susan's side, I saw the Silver Surfer floating in the air, and slowly stepped on the surfboard and flew towards Susan. The Silver Surfer looked at Susan's eyes a little tenderly, as if Susan reminded him of something. The Silver Surfer flew closer and closer, and Susan immediately supported the protective force field when she saw this, but the Silver Surfer slowly entered the force field without hindrance. Susan also found that the Silver Surfer did not mean to harm herself at this time, so she dared to ask, "Why are you destroying our planet?" Quote, "I have no choice." The Silver Surfer looked at Susan face to face. "What do you mean? People always have other options," Susan said. "No, not always. I'm not a destroyer." The Silver Surfer was silent for a moment. As soon as he said this, Chen Yu suddenly appeared in front of the Silver Surfer. Without waiting for the Silver Surfer to react, Chen Yu raised his hands and slapped one hand at the surfboard and the other on the Silver Surfer. With a snap, the Silver Surfer and his surfboard were separated by Chen Yu and flew towards the two sides separately. At this time, Reed and Tony and Vision also came here, and seeing this situation, Rogers said, "Chen Yu, you go and get the surfboard back, don't let the military get it, the others will follow me to see the creature." Chen Yu nodded. Of course he knew where the thing he flew by himself easily disappeared in place, and appeared again a few seconds later, and there was already a silver lustrous and mysterious surfboard in his hand. Chen Yu took the surfboard in his hand and felt that he could control a kind of power in the universe through the surfboard, which was very powerful, but it was a bit chicken for Chen Yu. Chen Yu didn't need any energy. Even if he did, Chen Yu already had a mind gem, although the surfboard can also be regarded as unlimited energy, but it is worse than the mind gem. Then Chen Yu appeared in front of everyone with a surfboard, and everyone was observing the Silver Surfer who was lying unconscious on the ground. At this moment, the sound of helicopters and off-road vehicles sounded around, and an off-road vehicle stopped in front of everyone. The Black General got out of the car with a broken arm wrapped in his arm and looked at the crowd. "You must give this creature to me and his surfboard, this is what our military must get." Reed looked at Rogers without speaking. Rogers thought for a moment and was about to agree, but Susan suddenly interjected, "He just said something strange to me." Chen Yu also said, "Can't hand it over to them. Should a strong person in the universe be handed over to these ordinary people to insult? I won't hand it over. Let's take him back and ask him well." Rogers thought about it, thought of the dirty methods of these people in the military, so he nodded and agreed. "No, you can't, it's about the security of the world," the Black General said urgently. "We are to protect the safety of the world," Rogers said, and then ignored the Black General and said to Chen Yu, "Chen Yu, send us back." Chen Yu didn't speak, and after the ability was activated, everyone and the Silver Surfer returned to the Avengers Mansion together. Avengers Mansion. The crowd didn't lock up the Silver Surfer or whatever, but threw it directly onto a bench, and then everyone sat on the sofa and chatted waiting for the Silver Surfer to wake up. However, Tony and Reed checked the body of the Silver Surfer and found that his body was terribly hard, harder than vibranium, and could not be destroyed. After a while, the Silver Surfer woke up. The surfboard issued was in Chen Yu's hand. The Silver Surfer did not say anything, just silent. Everyone saw that he had woken up and hurried. Rogers asked, "What's your name? Why destroy our planet?" Quote. The Silver Surfer was silent for a moment before saying, "Oh, I'm not a destroyer." "So who wants to destroy us? And what role do you play in it?" Quote. After thinking for a while, the Silver Surfer suddenly appeared in his abdomen, showing a planet being swallowed by a star-swallowing star. "What's that? That thing is devouring the planet." Quote. "God, what the hell is that?" Rogers was also taken aback by the destruction of the planet in the picture. "What is that? Is that the thing going to destroy the Earth? Why are you helping him?" Quote. "That's my master. He has many names. The people of my hometown call him Galatus, and he's the destroyer of the world," the Silver Surfer said slowly. "He must survive by constantly devouring energy, including electricity, heat and organic matter. How can you serve such a thing?" Susan looked at the end of the picture and said incredulously. The picture of this planet devourer devouring the planet really frightened everyone. It was too terrible, a planet, just 10 minutes to be devoured. Everyone also felt a deep sense of powerlessness. "I must do this. My ministry can spare my hometown, and my love," the Silver Surfer muffled. Chen Yu said at this time, "Is there a way to kill this thing? If you help us destroy him, your hometown will no longer have to worry about safety, right?" Quote. Rogers also said, "Yes, if you can, would you help us destroy that terrible thing?" Quote. It wasn't me who brought the destroyer to Earth, it was the lighthouse. What is a lighthouse? Tony said. The lighthouse is my source of energy, the Silver Surfer said, looking at Chen Yu. Hello Wong. Is that the surfboard? Everyone also looked at the surfboard in Chen Yu's hand. Well, enjoy the last hours of your lives, Silver Surfer said softly. Tony then asked, if you send a surfboard out of the Earth, will the Earth be spared? Quote. Everyone also looked at the Silver Surfer expectantly, for fear that their hopes would be dashed. It's too late, it's already too late, now he's about to reach the Earth, and the energy on the Earth has already been perceived by him. When Rogers heard this, he stood up firmly and looked at the disappointed people. Then, there can only be one battle, we lose, and the Earth will be destroyed. So I need everyone to pull together. Get it all out of the way. Just when everyone was inspired by Rogers' words, Chen Yu once again asked the Silver Surfer a question that he had not answered just now. I said, is there a way for this destroyer to kill? Chen Yu's words made everyone stunned, just now from despair to firmness, making everyone forget the most important question. The Silver Surfer did not expect that Chen Yu was still paying attention to this problem, and after being silent for a while, he said with a firm face, yes. What, really? The crowd was overjoyed. Yes, you only need to reach his inner core and gather enough energy to burst out to be able to kill the destroyer. The Silver Surfer suddenly looked up. Rogers hurriedly asked, how much energy does that take? Can nuclear weapons on our planet be? Quote. I'm afraid not, the destroyer can decompose everything close to him, and if the energy is connected, I can gather it for more than 10 seconds after connecting with the energy source. The Silver Surfer thought for a moment and said, okay, we get it, but you said he can decompose close objects, won't your surfboard decompose? Rogers asked worriedly. No, this thing is made of the hardest object in the universe and will not be destroyed by anything. Tony interjected at this time. So now it just takes someone to connect this surfboard to the destroyer core and gather energy to burst out, right? Quote. Good. After hearing this, Rogers looked at everyone. Then, who has the ability to enter? Who wants to go in? Chen Yu, although it may not be fair to you, on behalf of all the human beings on the Earth, I ask you to stand up, only you are the most likely. The other people of the Avenger also looked at Chen Yu very unbearably, and Wanda even hugged Chen Yu and cried. But apart from Chen Yu, they really couldn't think of anyone who could get close to swallowing Star. Hey, what's going on with you? Wouldn't you also be decomposed by the destroyer when he went in with a skateboard? Wouldn't Chen Yu have time to gather strength in this way? Quote. The Fantastic Four didn't understand why the Avengers felt Chan. Rogers looked at the four and explained. Actually, I don't know if Chen Yu can succeed. Chen Yu has a power that can make his body black and become very strong, maybe he can enter it to support it. The Avengers didn't actually know about the force field, they simply thought that Chen Yu, who had always been mysterious and powerful, could persist in gathering energy. If even Chen Yu couldn't do it, then none of them would be able to do it. After hearing everyone's thoughts, Chen Yu nodded to everyone without the slightest hesitation and said, no problem, I'll go. In fact, Chen Yu was not worried about his safety at all, and Chen Yu, who had an elastic force field, would not be in any danger at all. Seeing Chen Yu agree without hesitation, everyone looked at Chen Yu with admiration, and Wanda was even more sad when she held Chen Yu. The people of the Fantastic Four were a little confused and thought, isn't this Bass' wife that Hannah? What's going on with this Wanda? Single quote. Actually, you don't need to go in and hold on for that long, huh? Isn't Chen Yu able to give it away? Gather the energy first, and then let Chen Yu send it in, won't it burst out immediately? Quote. Johnny was looking at everyone like a fool at this time. Rogers. Quote. Tony. And this operation, ideographic period 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 ideographic period. Quote. After everyone in the Avengers was stunned, they all became happy, yes, so the success rate was greatly improved. It only takes the moment you go in to release the energy. Well, I'll go, thank you all the time for trusting me, the next road is your own. I, the old man, can finally rest. When Rogers came to his senses, he closed his eyes and muttered the same memory. Seeing this, Tony pouted. Forget it, the Avengers still need an old man, and I just want to go to another world to see if my fancy father has left my mother alone to soak up the girl. Natasha also stood up and said, "You two don't fight. I, a person without superpowers, feel that I can't keep up with your footsteps more and more, so I go and forget it. It's time to pay the debt for my bloody hands. Let me go, so that the new story of War Machine will be known to the whole world, and then I will be famous," Roddy said with joy. "Come Les, every time you want to be a hero, this time it's my turn." Sam was very upset with Roddy. "Pietro must be lonely over there, he and I have never been separated since childhood." Wanda wiped the tears from her face and hugged Chen Yu quietly. "Although I have only been born recently, it is my honor to be with you. This body was given by you, and now it is time to return it to you." Vision, who had never had any emotion, suddenly smiled at everyone. The Fantastic Four next to him were stunned when they looked at the Avengers who rushed to sacrifice. They are only capable and have made it their mission to save the world. But they can't do the Avengers, and they will sacrifice if the situation forces them to sacrifice. But there is absolutely no way to do the Avenger when there is a choice, and everyone is ready to sacrifice at any time. They are still too immature in front of the Avengers. The scene of the Avengers scrambling to sacrifice gave the Fantastic Four too much shock, and they suddenly understood why the Avengers would be reluctant to cooperate with the government. Because they are a group of people who have truly achieved selflessness in the face of great right and wrong, a group of people who deserve the respect of all. This scene also made the Fantastic Four remember it for a lifetime. Just when the Avengers were deadlocked, the Silver Surfer next to him suddenly spoke. "It's useless for any of you to go. The moment it appears, the energy will be decomposed if it doesn't burst out at all." "Why, not even a moment?" Rogers asked. "Yes, 10 minutes can devour a planet. Don't you understand how terrifying this is?" "But there's another way," Silver Surfer said slowly. "What way?" Tony quickly asked when he heard this. The Silver Surfer looked at the Avengers with a complicated expression and said, "I'll go." "You go." Rogers didn't react too much. "Yes, I go. I am the Destroyer's subordinate. If I go, he will not decompose me immediately, and because the power he gave me makes me indestructible. In fact, he has already given me the power to kill him, but I only understand it now." Silver Surfer laughed at himself. The Silver Surfer was touched by the spirit of the Avenger, and suddenly woke up. In fact, in the moment when the Star Swallowing gave him power, he could already die with the Star Swallower. However, it is because of the lack of the spirit of this choice that Silver Surfer has been helping Star Swallow destroy countless planets in order not to be swallowed up in his hometown. Now the Silver Surfer has finally woken up and feels that human beings with a spirit of choice should not be destroyed, so they intend to sacrifice themselves. "It turns out that I really have always had other choices." Seeing this, Chen Yu asked, "How many are you?" Quote, 90%. Chen Yu didn't say anything after listening to it. In fact, Chen was afraid that the Silver Surfer would fail. Because after knowing the method of killing and devouring stars, Chen Yu knew that this time it could pass. Even if the Silver Surfer fails, Chen Yu can rush to the core of Star Swallowing by himself, and then let the Mind Gem burst out of power to get Star Swallowing. But the sacrifice of the Silver Surfer was within Chen Yu's plan. After all, if the Silver Surfer was still alive or had not fallen into a coma and been blown up because of killing the Star Swallower, it is impossible for Chen Yu to get his surfboard. Of course, it is okay to grab it directly, but it will bring Chen Yu a bad reputation and even fall out with the Avengers. If it wasn't really helpless, Chen Yu didn't want to grab it directly. So you can only follow the idea of the Silver Surfer and let the Silver Surfer sacrifice himself. I have to say that Chen Yu is actually very selfish, but people do not die for themselves. Everyone looked at the Silver Surfer sitting in the chair with a relieved face, and a sudden burst of joy came from the desperate heart. Rogers walked up to the Silver Surfer and bowed solemnly. Thank you for saving our home. I don't know what to use to express my gratitude." The Avengers, everyone and the Fantastic Four, including Chen Yu, also walked up to the Silver Surfer and bowed in respect. "Norlin lad," the Silver Surfer whispered at this point. "What?" Susan asked again. "Norlin lad, this is my name in my hometown before," the Silver Surfer said his name again. "Norlin, thank you so much for everything you have done for our planet. You will be remembered by all of us on Earth." Rogers bowed solemnly again after knowing Norlin's name. Everyone followed suit and bowed again. Then Friday's voice rang out in the living room. Gentlemen, the satellite has detected the destroyer you are talking about, and according to the speed of the other party and the rotation of the Earth, the destroyer will appear in 2 hours in 1/5 of the Earth area centered on Shanghai. Is it really Shanghai? Chen Yu said secretly after hearing Friday's words. The core of the star-swallowing movie in the past life is in the sky above Shanghai. After hearing this, Rogers also hurriedly said, the time is only 2 hours, the location is in Shanghai, let's get ready to go. After that, Rogers went to put on his equipment. When the others were ready, Chen Yu immediately sent everyone and himself over. Now there are too many people, and the Kun-type fighters cannot sit down in Sichuan. Finally back, my home, even if I grew up in the United States in this life, but 5,000 years of cultural heritage has made culture deeply imprinted in my soul, how can I not erase it? The moment Chen Yu stood on the ground in Shanghai, all kinds of past lives flashed quickly in Chen Yu's mind, making Chen Yu have an unreal feeling. Chen Yu took 2 deep breaths, calmed his mood, and immediately began to evacuate the crowd under the command of Rogers. Although he has not spoken Mandarin for more than 20 years, Chen Yu speaks fluently at the moment, and this language deeply imprinted in his soul makes Chen Yu's 593 have a strange feeling. I even wanted to cry while talking. Tony's side was also nervously conveying some information through the International Security Council, and Tony told the council all the information. Major countries have also observed the desperate top creature of the universe through satellites. After learning that the Avengers and the Fantastic Four have a way to kill the godlike creature that looks like it could easily destroy Earth, immediately began to cooperate with the evacuation crowd. At this time, the executive power made everyone stunned. This is difficult for other countries to do, and the capitalist countries are really not satisfactory in the execution of some things. The surrounding area was quickly emptied, and by this time the swallowing star had also reached Earth. Norlin looked at the monster above him who had served for hundreds of years, with a firm face. This time Norlin wanted to resist and do what he should have done hundreds of years ago. Norlin stepped on the surfboard that Chen Yu had returned to him, immediately connected to the surfboard, and began to gather energy. More than 10 seconds later, Norlin, who had everything ready, turned to Chen Yu and said, I don't have anything to say to the destroyer. You can send me directly. When Chen Yu heard this, he turned on the domineering spirit with all his strength, because the size of the star-swallowing body was too large, and Chen Yu could barely sense the approximate location of the core. Then Chen Yu did not hesitate, and shot at Norlin's full ability. With a bang, Norlin disappeared in place. Only a small whirlwind on the ground hinted that an admirable person had existed here just now. And Chen Yu also turned his head at this time to look at the people who were waiting. I have some things to go up and see. After speaking, he disappeared without waiting for everyone to react. Chen Yu passed through countless rubble and instantly appeared in the core of the star swallowing, and the rubble along the way would be bounced off when it touched Chen Yu's body. When Chen Yu reached the core, Norlin was already energized, and after a dazzling bright light, the star-swallowing fiery red core was instantly destroyed. The huge explosion first sucked the countless gravel and black energy tentacles stretched out by the devouring star into the center of the explosion, and then instantly annihilated everything with a powerful and invincible impact. It's as if nothing has ever been in space outside Earth. Only Chen Yu was still standing here, and at the moment of the explosion, Chen Yu saw that he was domineering and captured Norlin's surfboard. Chen Yu was able to launch a shot, came to the surfboard, and took the surfboard in his hand. As for the suction before the explosion and the impact that annihilated everything in the instant after the explosion, it seemed to bypass Chen Yu, and even Chen Yu's clothes did not fluctuate in the slightest. Chen Yu looked at the surfboard in his hand, and then turned to look for Norlin, who did not know where to fly after being exploded, and secretly said sorry in his heart. After that, Chen Yu did not hesitate, and instantly appeared on the ground in Shanghai. At this time, everyone was still worried about Chen Yu's sudden disappearance, and suddenly saw Chen Yu actually returning with a surfboard. I couldn't help but be very curious. Baby bear, how are you okay? The explosion just now could annihilate everything, and my satellite instantly lost a single hair. Tony asked strangely. Everyone else also looked at Chen Yu, hoping that he would give an answer. Oh, I can already have an elastic force field around my body. Any attack is ineffective for me. Chen Yu explained softly. What? Then didn't you say it earlier? If he said it earlier, Norlin would not have to sacrifice and would have returned to his hometown. Roger was immediately very annoyed when he heard Chen Yu's explanation, and then after seeing the surfboard in Chen Yu's hand, he yelled at Chen Yu angrily. Just for this surfboard, right? Is it for this thing that you don't say anything and let Norlin stupidly sacrifice? Quote. The eyes of the others looking at Chen Yu were also very strange. They were mocking, disdainful, helpless, angry, and worried. Chen Yu fell silent when he heard this, not knowing how to answer, because what Rogers said was the truth. But there are some things that Chen Yu must do. Wanda, this surfboard is for you, it can greatly enhance your combat power. After being silent for a while, Chen Yu walked to Wanda and handed the surfboard to her. Wanda took the surfboard handed over by Chen Yu in a daze, and couldn't react a little. Rogers saw that Chen Yu did not explain, and he was even more angry. Running over and pushing Chen Yuxia, he asked loudly, You talk, are you really so cold-blooded? Just for this thing, you have planned it for a long time, right? If Norlin doesn't sacrifice you, are you going to grab his surfboard? Quote. Chen Yu was pushed back a few steps, stabilized his figure and turned to look at Rogers and said softly, Not bad, if he doesn't sacrifice, I will use the mind gem to get the destroyer myself and then come back and grab Norin's surfboard. You are really cold-blooded, tyrant bear, hee, invincible defense, unparalleled strength, perfect ability. Oh, of course, and very honest, after all, it is so simple to admit his cold-blooded plan, isn't it? Sam next to him was also mocked by Chen Yu. At this time, Wanda, who reacted, was very moved by what Chen Yu had done for her, but she didn't want others to accuse Chen Yu so much, and hurriedly said, I don't have to, don't talk about Chen Yu. When everyone heard Wanda say this, before he could speak, he was interrupted by Chen Yu. No, you must use it, I got this with my conscience so that I can rest assured of your safety. Rogers ignored Wanda, who was even more moved after hearing Chen Yu's words, and stared at Chen Yu deadly. Gee, you actually know that this was obtained against your conscience, since you know, then why do you still do this? No, why? I need Wanda to be safer, if I do it again, I will still do it, Chen Yu said expressionlessly. Tony saw that Chen Yu did not enter and immediately came out to play the round. Rogers, forget it, you also know how much this kid Wanda has paid for Chen Yu, and Chen Yu can understand this. After hearing Chen Yu's answer, Rogers, who was furious, was about to continue to say Chen Yu, and after hearing Tony's words, he looked at Wanda who was about to cry. After a gloomy look for a while, he sighed and said, Chen Yu, I know that everything you do is to protect it, but I hope you will expand the protection area in the future, otherwise you will no longer be suitable as a member of the Avengers. Seeing what he wanted to say after hearing Rogers' words, Tony immediately interjected and interrupted Chen Yu's words to exit. Okay, so be it, these can be regarded as saving Earth 1 again, which shows that we are right to go it alone, and there are no casualties this time. It should be possible to restore trust. Tony knew that Chen Yu would be very disdainful after hearing Rogers' words, whatever, it doesn't matter if it's a member of the Avengers, anyway, there are no relatives in the world, so he quickly changed the topic. Rogers and the crowd were indeed diverted. Rogers immediately said, Well, yes, then, Tony, you will release the whole process tomorrow to eliminate the impact of the last Sokovian incident. I'm afraid it's not that easy, even if it's temporarily eliminated, after a while we make a little mistake, we will also be taken out to talk about things, at most it will be delayed for a while. Natasha also spoke up at this time. It has been 8 months since the Sokovia incident, and in these 8 months, everyone has been disgraced by the Sokovia incident. And the Fantastic Four was whispering at this time. Johnny, wow, that tyrant bear is very strong, this is all directly admitted, enough seed, and in my experience, his relationship with that beautiful Wanda is not simple. Ben, well, it's probably an extramarital affair or something. You know that his wife is an ordinary person, and someone as powerful as him should have more common language with female superheroes, right? Quote. Read, well, 8 or 9 is not far from 10, but listening to his words seems to be invincible, it's really terrible. Susan, but I don't think his idea is a big mistake, of course, relatives are the most important, if I had to choose me, maybe I would do it. Susan, this is a typical little woman mentality. Wanda, you stand on the surfboard and try it. Chen Yu let Wanda try the ability of the surfboard. Wanda obediently stood up when she heard this, and saw that the silver surfboard suddenly slowly turned red. Everyone was very surprised to see this, and also attracted the magical four over there, and suddenly everyone looked around Wanda, and for a while Wanda was a little embarrassed. Chen Yu already knew that it would look like this, because after Victor stood on the surfboard in the previous life movie, the surfboard turned black. And Wanda's energy is red, so Chen Yu was not surprised that the surfboard turned red. After Wanda became a little familiar, she flew towards the sky, slowly began to accelerate, and after a while, she flew away. Chapter 91. Just as everyone looked up to find Wanda's figure in the sky, a small red dot in the distance flew in front of everyone in the blink of an eye. It was Wanda who flew out. Wanda, what do you think? Is it easy to use? Chen Yu asked impatiently. Wanda nodded sweetly. Very easy to use, the fastest speed can reach 5 times the speed of sound, and it can greatly enhance my ability, it is perfect. Chen Yu was relieved. The others gasped when they heard Wanda's words. Wanda was already very powerful, and after getting the surfboard, not only did it increase its mobility, but it also strengthened its already super power. After that, besides Chen Yu, who is Wanda's opponent, Wanda ignored everyone's surprise, and looked at Chen Yu gently. Chen Yu, you give this thing a name, it can't be called a surfboard all the time, right? Quote. Do you want to call it Duyun? Chen Yu looked at the surfboard and didn't know what to name. Tony has a certain understanding of the culture of the Celestial Empire and knows about Duyun, so he complained, this is not at all like Duyun, is it? Quote. Well, since it's red, why don't you call it Red Cloud? Chen Yu looked at the red surfboard and thought of another one. Wanda thought about it and said, well, this name is not bad, just this one. Thus, the name of Wanda's future weapon Red Cloud was thus decided. Then Chen Yu sent everyone back, but this time Wanda did not let Chen Yu send it, but was ready to be familiar with Hong Yun. Of course, Chen Yu also hoped that Wanda would get acquainted with Hong Yun as soon as possible to ensure her own safety, so after encouraging Wanda a few words, she sent everyone back with herself. Not long after everyone returned to the Avengers mansion, Wanda also returned. After everyone was talking, Friday detected a new unmanned aerial vehicle flying to the window of the Avengers building's floor. Everyone looked out the window suspiciously, and saw that outside was a 4-seater flat disc aircraft, full of technology. At this time, Reed stood up and explained for everyone, this is a small interest of the contemptible, add some mobility to our team, make everyone laugh. No, pretty nice stuff, semi-automatic, right? Should it still be able to split into 4 points? But the number of manned people is too small, our Avenger side is still more suitable for Kun-type fighters. Tony took a closer look. Good, semi-automatic, and Kun style mainly because everyone in our team likes to drive, and human operation is more flexible than intelligent operation. Reed laughed. Johnny and the Stone Man could have been next to them and couldn't do it. This is the coolest invention of your life, Reed. Johnny really wanted to go up and do it right away. Of course this kind of thing should be driven by me, I can drive this thing around you in circles, Stone Man Ben also busily said. Reed looked at the Avengers at this time. Thanks to everyone's cooperation, the Avengers also taught us a good lesson and let us know what it means to pay for the world. Now that the matter is over, we will go back, you Avengers should still have a lot of things to do, right? Rogers nodded when he heard this. Yes, there are still some things to deal with on our side, then there will be a period later. The Avengers watched the Fantastic Four get on the flying machine and leave, and as soon as it flew out, the aircraft split into 4 points and drew a Fantastic Four logo in the sky with exhaust before flying away. And there are indeed some things on the Avengers side that need to be dealt with immediately. The first is that in the face of this problem of kicking the military away, countries find that the world is almost destroyed, and the security of the world is not controlled by themselves. This issue requires Rogers and Tony to communicate properly to the World Security Council. The existence of the Avenger has made the countries of the world unhappy like a stock, and we must find a way to solve it. But because Tony had already announced all the things to the world, of course, he concealed the part of Chen Yu's plot against Red Cloud. So for a while, the World Council could not move the Avengers. And the Avengers don't mean that you can move, you are completely sure of the existence of taking it. Several powerful superheroes in it are a headache for governments, especially the Tyrant Bear. According to the data, the Tyrant Bear treats outsiders very coldly except for family and friends. The point is that the ability is terrifyingly strong. Vision, the Witch Wanda, Tony Stark and Chen Yu, as well as the Hulk who doesn't know where, and Thor, who represents Asgard, are all reasons why governments dare not really do anything against the Avengers. But there is a limit to these patiences. Once one day governments can no longer stand these lawlessness, as long as they feel that they are right, they will ignore national borders and ignore the law. At that time, he will definitely find a way to clamp down on this group and put the general public on the opposite side of the Avengers. Chen Yu had long known that they would use a very clever method in the future. Divide and let the Avengers deal with the Avengers themselves. This is also a bit of a headache for Chen Yu, because Wanda should be on Roger's side, which is Wanda's character. Wanda felt she should do something for the world instead of living comfortably. And Rogers is very stubborn, and Chen Yu has already affirmed that civil war is inevitable. Chen Yu still didn't know what to do then. Although the outside world is very grateful to the Avengers under the horror of swallowing Star this time, the Avengers still have to start fighting the terrorists. The destruction caused by that time, the innocent people affected, will make the world no longer able to endure the Avenger, and the Avenger himself will suffer. Looking at the people who were dealing with their own affairs, Chen Yu said hello to Wanda and went home. Chen Yu, who thought that he would be lonely again this time, received a call from Pepper, a call that was the most important and joyful for Chen Yu. Chen Yu, Hannah is pregnant, I'll send her back in the evening today, Pepper said excitedly as soon as the phone was connected. What, Hannah pregnant? Are you still in the UK? Give me the location, I'll pick up Hannah, Chen Yu asked a little tremblingly. Then I can't wait to pick up Hannah. Well, we are still in the UK, congratulations, when the child is 6 months old, we can go to see if it is a man or a woman. Pepper was also happy for Chen Yu and Hannah. After having children, Chen Yu and Hannah will be closer to outsiders. It's not easy to get divorced either. I like both boys and girls, you wait in the UK, I'll come right away, you send me the location. After speaking, Chen Yu hung up the phone and waited for Pepper to send the location. At this time, Chen Yu had recovered from the shock, and now there was only a strong joy left. 2 lifetimes as human beings, finally having children. At this moment, Chen Yu suddenly felt that the world was so real, and Chen Yu finally admitted this world in his heart. Admitted that this mile is also his home. After waiting for a while, Chen Yu, who received the position sent by Pepper, ignored it, and directly turned on his ability to rush to the UK with all his strength. A few minutes later I arrived in England. In the lobby of a luxury hotel, Chen Yu saw Pepper and Hannah sitting there, accompanied by 2 female assistants. At this time, Pepper kept pulling Hannah to say something happily, and Hannah also looked happy. Chen Yu stood at the door, took a deep breath and walked in and shouted, Hannah, I'm coming. Little bear. Hannah heard someone call her, turned her head to see that it was Chen Yu, and exclaimed in surprise. Hannah happily rushed towards Chen Yu, startling Chen Yu, and quickly and carefully stabilized Hannah, who was already holding Chen Yu, and said, Hannah, you have to be careful now. Chen Yu's seeing and hearing also activated at this time, and indeed perceived another voice in Hannah, a voice that could not be heard at all without listening carefully. Pepper also came over at this time and said, It's only been more than a month, you don't need to be so careful, but you can't be tired. BHCD, let Hannah go back to rest, you accompany her. At this time, Hannah saw that the eyes of the 2 female assistants under her were a little strange, so she quickly took out of Chen Yu's embrace, but the happiness on her face could not be hidden. The 2 female assistants were also the tyrant bears they saw for the first time, and they both looked at Chen Yu very curiously, but they did not dare to interject casually. Don't worry, I will take care of Hannah, it's a little late today, tomorrow I'll call my parents to make them happy too. Chen Yu was also very happy. Little bear, do you like boys or girls? Hannah held Chen Yu's arm and said. I like it all, boy I will make him strong, he protects his mother, girl I will spoil her like a little princess, let her accompany her mother to relieve boredom. Chen Yu smiled and gently kissed Hannah's forehead, and after Hannah heard this, she hugged Chen Yu again and gently leaned her head on Chen Yu's chest. Hannah's 2 assistants are crazy at this time, extinct good men, look at the luck of our boss Hannah, how can we not meet such a man? Pepper also looked at the 2 with a smile, and then thought of something and said to Chen Yu with a sad expression, you are Tony's best friend, why can you let go, but Tony can't? Quote. Chen Yu knew what Pepper was thinking, and comforted him in a loud voice, that's because I'm selfish, but Tony has the world in mind. Oh, I'd rather he be as selfish as you. I shouldn't have fallen in love with him in the first place. In the face of Pepper's resentment, Chen Yu didn't know what to say. The 3 chatted for a while, and Chen Yu was ready to send Hannah home. Do you use your ability to send Hannah back? Wouldn't it be less stable? Pepper said. Pepper had heard Tony say how he felt to be photographed by Chen Yu for the first time, so he was a little worried. Don't worry about Pepper. I now use my ability to send someone with an air shield to protect the person I send out, even if it hits the plane, the person I send will be fine. Chen Yu said confidently. Chen Yu's current pressure cannon hood can already compress the air to be more condensed and more penetrating. Oh, then, good luck with your early birth, Pepper blessed. Thank you Pepper, thank you for taking care of me over the years, you will always be my dearest best friend, Hannah also said sincerely to Pepper. Yes, thank you Pepper, all these years of my chores and Hannah thanks to your help, I don't know how to thank you, you come to be our child's godmother. Chen Yu is really grateful to Pepper. Okay, then I'll wait for the day when I become a godmother, Pepper didn't refuse, she also really liked Hannah, a kind girl. Hee, I'm going to make Tony the child's godfather then, haha, Chen Yu teased Pepper and then turned on his ability to send himself and Hannah away. This Chen Yu, Pepper chuckled when he saw the 2 who had disappeared in place. And the 2 female assistants even watched the ability of the tyrant bear on the spot, and they felt that the trip was worth it. Hannah, you must be careful in the future, give me any heavy things you want, don't clean the house, I'll get it. After returning home, Chen Yu began to remind Hannah, in fact, Chen Yu also knew that there was no need to be so careful, but Chen Yu just couldn't help but think about it. What if you accidentally hit Hannah while holding a heavy object? What if I accidentally fall while cleaning? And Hannah sat on the sofa with Chen Yu with a funny face, gently leaned on Chen Yu, and silently listened to Chen Yu's increasingly excessive demands. Hannah feels that she is really lucky to meet Chen Yu in her life. She thought that maybe God was very partial to her, so she let herself go to a class reunion that evening. The few gangsters on the way home may also be God's arrangement, just to let Chen Yu find himself and then take care of himself. The next day, Chen Yu and Hannah called their relatives and announced the good news to them, and suddenly the whole family was happy and told the 2 of them a word. Yes, I'm finally going to be an aunt, Chen Wen ran over excitedly to touch Hannah's belly. Xiao Wen, it's only been a month, how can you feel it? Hannah smiled and looked at Chen Wen. Then won't I also be an uncle? Hannah's younger brother is also very happy, but in the end, he is a boy, and he is still an otaku, and he is relatively calm. Xiao Yu, you have to take good care of Hannah now, you don't have to do heavy work or something, and the 2 of you are too lonely at home, please come personally. Mother Wang Yang is also very nervous about Hannah now, and has long felt that Chen Yu's family should hire someone, such a big house, just 2 people to live, cleaning is difficult. Well, I don't understand this, I'll ask Hannah to contact Pepper to find a better maid, Chen Yu was also right when he heard it, so he said after thinking about it. Chen Yu never thought of finding a maid, because Hannah wanted to live in the world of 2 with Chen Yu, and Hannah loved to clean the room very much, so he didn't invite it. Later, after graduation, Hannah and Chen Yu were not at home much, so they did not hire a maid. In fact, because you are often away from home, you should hire a maid to look at the house early, and clean it regularly. By the way, is the child male or female? Did you name your child? Chen Shang came over and asked Chen Yu. It's only a month now, and the baby hasn't even started to be divided into men and women in the belly, and I can't see it. If you have a name, Daddy, you can call it. Chen Yu said helplessly, now the child does not even have a personal form, which makes Chen Yu how to look at men and women. Chen Yu has actually been paying attention to the little life in Hannah's belly. Not because I care about men and women, but because I want to see if my child has inherited his own flesh ball ability. Although Chen Yu's own ability is the same as that of One Piece meatball fruit, Chen Yu is not a devil fruit that he eats, but an ability that he was born with. And Chen Yu is not afraid of seawater. It would be great if the child could inherit the ability. As long as you have the ability of meatballs, you can develop an elastic force field under Chen Yu's training. Then the safety of children will not be in the future. After all, Chen Yu does not know whether there will be any super criminals targeting his children. If the child did not inherit the meatball, Chen Yu was also wondering whether to use the mind gem to send some energy for the child to absorb and see if it could trigger any ability. After all, the mind gem gave Pietro level speed, gave Wanda red energy, and gave Vision levitation ability. Chen Yu's control over the mind gem is now enough, and it is estimated that it will be completely integrated in more than a year, and there should be a high chance of giving the child an ability. At this time, Chen Yu is very contradictory. On the one hand, he wants the child to be an ordinary person like Hannah, and does not have to participate in the bad things of superheroes. After all, if others know that Chen Yu's child is capable, they will definitely find a way to win over the child when he grows up, cheat and so on. If he uses some beauty trick to confuse the child, or counterplot to separate the father-son relationship between Chen Yu and the child, it will be a headache for Chen Yu. But on the other hand, Chen Yu really wants to give the child some self-preservation ability. After all, this is the Marvel world, there is no ability or equipment, so I am sorry to mess around in this world. Every time he thought of this, Chen Yu complained, why didn't I come with martial arts or cultivation exercises or something, so that future generations can learn it? Chen Yu, who had no answer, decided to think about it again. As for the child's name, Chen Yu was a little indifferent, so he let his father Chen Shang choose a name. Okay, I'll take it, and when I go back and flip through the book, I will take one, the male will take one, the female will take one, and I will take Chinese name. But the child is always in the United States, and he needs an English name. Chen Shang was very excited, and was ready to go back and think hard about a good name for his grandson. English name, mother-in-law, let's get it. Chen Yu smiled and looked at Hannah's mother. Hannah's mother was also happy to say that she would think of two names, a man and a woman. The family passed the day happily, and the next day the family sent a lot of things. What cribs, strollers, baby pants, etc., even the younger siblings sent some toys. You must know that now the younger brothers and sisters are not short of money at all, and Chen Yu has money. In the next few days, Chen Yu also found time to go back to the Avengers mansion, where everyone was busy moving, because the new Avengers training base was about to be completed. Chen Yu told everyone the good news that his wife Hannah was pregnant, and received everyone's blessing, which can be regarded as a rush to everyone who moved. Everyone gathered together and chatted about trivial matters, and everyone was very happy, but some envy and loss flashed in Wanda's eyes from time to time. Chen Yu found out, but didn't know what to say. After chatting almost the same, Chen Yu wanted to go back to accompany Hannah, but then Rogers stopped Chen Yu. Last time I said to contact that Doctor Strange, because the arrival of the destroyer was delayed. This time I am going to take Tony and you, and the three of us will go together to meet that supreme mage hero. Because Chen Yu's power is strong, Rogers must also pay attention to Chen Yu. Of course, Wanda is also very powerful now, but Wanda is more obedient and less assertive, so Rogers does not plan to bring Wanda. As for Tony, of course, it is to be brought. The establishment of the Avengers was single-handedly promoted by Tony, and Tony's prestige in the Avengers is also very high. Coupled with Chen Yu's support, Tony is faintly the second leader. It's just that Tony usually gives Rogers very much, and the relationship between the two is getting better and better. Well, yes, let's go to the evening today. I'll accompany Hannah to stroll around after dinner. It's about 8 o'clock. 2, 3, 7, Chen Yu said after thinking about it. No problem, we'll be waiting for you here after eating, Rogers said. Chen Yu nodded and disappeared in place. When he returned home, Chen Yu told Hannah about the situation, saying that it might take a little evening to come back to watch horror movies with her after shopping in the evening. Hannah gently said that it was okay, and let Chen Yu go to his own affairs first. After Chen Yu also kissed Hannah gently, he ran to get a vacuum cleaner to clean the room. Originally Chen Yu was used to using a broom. But now that Hannah is pregnant, Chen Yu is afraid that it will not be good to be sucked into Hannah's body by sweeping up the ash. In the evening, after returning home from shopping with Hannah, Chen Yu disappeared in place under Hannah's gentle gaze and appeared in the Avengers building. Chen Yu, you are here, Then let's go, this time you will send us. Rogers said as soon as he saw Chen Yu appear. Doctor Strange is now richer because he became a supreme mage and has the power of all mages. I bought the top 5 floors in a building in New York as my usual place to stay. Today, Doctor Strange stood by the window looking at the night view of New York, thinking about the fact that the world was almost destroyed the other day. Doctor Strange is a little remorseful, regretting that his attention has been on the invasion of the other dimensional space, and ignoring that in the real world where he is now, the Earth is also in a very dangerous position. Doctor Strange has long been paying attention to supernatural forces such as Avengers, Asgard, Fantastic Four, and Spider-Man. But Doctor Strange did not come into contact, because these people would at best fight terrorists and maintain world peace and so on. But this time it was a wake-up call for Doctor Strange. Doctor Strange must guard the Mage Tower and keep an eye on the situation in the other dimensional space, but now in the real world, the situation on Earth is not optimistic. Doctor Strange learned about Asgard by some means, and also guessed that after the last war between New York and the Zetori, Earth would be exposed to the eyes of other civilizations in the universe. Therefore, Doctor Strange must find allies, otherwise he will not be able to do both. If you find an ally, everyone shares intelligence, and if real-world allies can't get it done, Doctor Strange can also help. In the matter of the other dimensional space, Doctor Strange himself can also find allies to help. Anyway, it is to protect the safety of the world. As a result, the Avengers, an organization that took the initiative to ally with the Fantastic Four, became Doctor Strange's choice. Since the Avengers can take the initiative to ally with the Fantastic Four, of course, they don't mind having more powerful allies. And there are several very powerful beings among the Avengers, which are an important force. Just as Doctor Strange was thinking about when to find a time to contact the Avengers, the glass of the window in front of him suddenly shattered with a pop. At the same time, 3 people appeared in front of Doctor Strange, startling Doctor Strange. Tony looked at Doctor Strange, who was a little sluggish because of the sudden appearance of the 3 of him, and said frivolously, "I will lose the glass money." Oh, no, you guys are here, please sit. Doctor Strange suddenly reacted, isn't this the ally he is looking for? Unexpectedly, they found it first. So Doctor Strange looked at the bear's paw-shaped pit where the 3 were standing, and quickly pointed to the sofa next to him for the 3 to sit. Then with a casual wave of his hand, the broken glass that fell on the ground immediately flew back to the window to recover. It's like windows never rot. The bear's paw-shaped crater on the ground also returned to its original state in an instant. Cool, Tony couldn't help but say. Rogers and Chen Yu were also very surprised. Looking at Doctor Strange's understatement, the 2 looked at each other. Rogerston paid more attention to this supreme mage. After repairing the glass in the pothole, Doctor Strange also quickly sat down opposite the 3 and looked at the 3, and it took a while to react, and waved again. The cups that were held upside down on the table in front of him flew out 3 and stood in front of the 3. What are you going to drink? Oh, get me a beer, thanks, Rogers said politely. Well, I want a cup of coffee, are you going to control the coffee machine to pour it for us? Tony's mouth was still broken. Green tea, Chen Yu said softly. So, is there something wrong with the 3 coming to me? Doctor Strange saw that the 3 of them were looking at him burningly, and he lifted Erlang's legs a little uncomfortably. Well, is this a magician? It's amazing. Tony was about to see how Doctor Strange gave them a drink, but saw that the other party actually asked about their intentions, so did he just ask us what to drink just to tease us? Just as he was about to say a few words, he was touched by Rogers, and Tony looked down and saw that the cup was already full of coffee. The curious Tony quickly picked it up and took a large sip, and found that the taste was not bad, so he put down the cup and prepared to praise the taste of the coffee. But suddenly I saw that half of the coffee I had just drunk slowly returned to the state of full cup. At this time, Tony really felt that this supreme mage was a little powerful, and there was something out of nothing. Hee, carving worm tricks. Let's talk about your purpose. By the way, my name is Stephen Strange, you can call me Stephen. Doctor Strange didn't care. Well, my name is Steve. Before Rogers could finish speaking, Stephen interrupted. I know the names of the 3 of you, your names are similar to mine, I'll call you Rogers or Mr. Captain, okay. Oh, okay. Rogers also found that the names of the two were easily mispronounced, so he quickly nodded. Now it's time to talk about your intentions, right? Stephen said a little helplessly. This is the third time to ask. Rogers also noticed this problem and hurriedly said, "Oh, we came to contact you this time to understand some of what you are doing and whether there is a possibility of an alliance between you and our Avengers." Stephen smiled after hearing this. "Haha, I was trying to find a time to find you before you came, and I also want to form an alliance with you. This is completely fine." Rogers was also relieved to hear this, and then said, "What the hell are you doing? Why do you want to ally with us too?" Quote. After hearing Rogers' question, Stephen also put away his smile and said with a little seriousness, "Our world has actually been facing the invasion of another dimension. Last time in Hong Kong, a powerful evil god in a different dimension space tempted one of my senior brothers and gave him the power to kill my master, and that master god opened a passage in two-dimensional spaces to allow the evil god to descend into the real world. I used my power to get him to retreat through stratagem, and the consequences were unimaginable. Now I have assumed the duties of my master, become a supreme mage, and have also contacted and absorbed the power of some evil gods to become an intermediary between the other dimensional space and the real world. Since I have to put a lot of energy into monitoring the opposite, it is inevitable that sometimes I do not take into account the real world, so I am thinking of forming an alliance with you." Stephen spoke eloquently, saying what he was doing. Rogers was awestruck when he heard this. This group of mages was actually protecting the real world in obscurity, and it should have been going on for hundreds or thousands of years. The real world is so big, as far as I know, there are many civilizations in the universe. Why would the other dimensional space choose the Earth to invade? Tony didn't understand it after hearing this. Thor had long told Tony that there were many civilizations in the universe beyond the 9 kingdoms. Other civilizations also have mages, and there are some super large mage organizations in the universe that are stabilizing the space of the real world, and the Earth has not been known to the outside world because of the protection of Asgard, so we can only rely on our own mages. Stephen explained. "Well, since we all aim to protect the world, our alliance is perfectly fine," Rogers said. "Well, since it's okay to form an alliance, then I want to ask us what it takes me to form an alliance. How can I get help?" Quote. Stephen saw that Rogers had promised an alliance and immediately asked the question he was most concerned about. "Like the Fantastic Four, we form an offensive and defensive alliance. Intelligence resources are shared. You are obliged to help us when we need help, and of course we are obliged to help you if you are in trouble, and the Fantastic Four has received our obligatory help once." Rogers wanted Stephen to explain. "Oh, was it the Victor, the chairman of Dumb Enterprises? I knew about the operation, so I said yes." Stephen knew that the Avengers helped the Fantastic Four in their actions, and that heroes like Captain America were also reassuring to him, so he readily agreed. Seeing this, Tony immediately said, "Okay, tomorrow I will hold a press conference to announce this matter, and I will go to find the Fantastic Four later, so that we can form a 3-way offensive and defensive alliance. Of course, you have an additional obligation to help the Fantastic Four, but at the same time, you have more help when you are in trouble." No problem. Stephen didn't expect to be able to pull the powerful Fantastic Four again, and agreed quickly. "Then we will leave. We will give you an answer after the negotiation is completed. I will let Tony connect the network information of the 3 parties when I go back, implement information synchronization, and you will not be absent from the press conference tomorrow." Rogers stood up and said, "Don't worry, tomorrow will come." Stephen also smiled and stood up to see him off. "Chen Yu, let's go." Rogers turned to look at Chen Yu. After Chen Yu sent Rogers and Tony away, he also came to himself, but went home directly and did not go to the Avengers mansion again. It didn't take much time to come out this time, so Chen Yu, who returned home, accompanied Hannah to watch horror movies again. The next day, the news from the outside world was detonated. Today is the 3-way alliance press conference of the Fantastic Four, the Avengers and the Supreme Mage Doctor Strange, when the 3 parties will officially form an alliance in the lobby of the first floor of the Avengers building, becoming a 3-way offensive and defensive alliance. This is the biggest news of this century, the alliance of the 3 superhero forces. I wonder what the government will think of these superhero forces outside the transcendent object. Is it support or suppression? Let's take a closer look at the information of the 3 parties. In 2 hours, our TV station will broadcast this alliance press conference live, and those who care about superheroes must not miss it. Early the next morning, Chen Yu and Hannah turned on the TV and there was overwhelming news of the Tripartite alliance. The superheroes not only became stronger, but also chose to huddle, which is undoubtedly what the government does not want. Especially the Fantastic Four. They don't have any power in themselves, just 4 pure superheroes, not like the Avengers, nor do they have the mages of the whole world behind them like Doctor Strange. But the Fantastic Four don't know if the last star-swallowing incident was affected by the Avengers, and it was originally summarized by some government think tanks as a superhero gang that was best wooed. But the lobbyists sent back one by one. The anxieties of governments have been seen by many careerists, who have come forward to meet the needs of governments in order to rise to power, and have come forward to criticize superhero alliances. There is even a British politician who says that superheroes should all serve their respective countries, but the person who said this point obviously slapped the horse's hooves on the horse's hooves. The 3 superheroes to be allied today, except for the tyrant bear who may fall through his speech, and Wanda as a Sokovian, the other superheroes are all American. You said that if you are a good American politician, the American people may really support you, and then you can run for president, marry Bai Fumei, and go to the peak of life. But you are a British dignitary, this is not looking for death. Sure enough, the British dignitary was boycotted by popular demonstrations within days. And then stepped down. Baby Bear, will you be present today? It's very lively, Tony called Chen Yu. Ah, I'm going to accompany Hannah, so I'm not going. Don't you want to rest too? Don't be too active in this kind of thing. Chen Yu really took Tony as a friend, so he persuaded. Oh, I'm already in Canada, I'm giving talks at the University of Toronto, and by the way, setting up a scholarship to support people who have ideas that are good for the world, no matter how ridiculous their ideas are. Tony said seriously. Well, still guilty. The past is gone, but it's okay to do this, less to follow Rogers to participate. I still maintain my opinion, Rogers has times to cry. Chen Yu was still a little unhappy, mainly because Rogers made Wanda lame. Haha, you're still like that, but don't you respect people like him? He didn't get any benefit at all, so he did it without hesitation. Tony said half-jokingly. Tony now also genuinely appreciates Rogers as a person, and without touching the bottom line, in fact, Rogers is not so stubborn. Tony, seriously, have you asked Friday to count how many times things have happened that have nearly destroyed the world since you admitted you were Iron Man? Did it happen before you became Iron Man? World War II has been fought for so many years without seeing the destruction of the world. Chen Yu sighed. Hey, Baby Bear, you're not saying it's all my fault, are you? Tony complained. I mean, since there were superheroes, disasters followed, and in all fairness, does the world really need superheroes? Is it true to destroy without superheroes? Quote. Will it? Without us, the Battle of New York and the arrival of the planetary devourers that just happened, the Earth would have been destroyed, right? Quote. Tony still thinks Earth needs superheroes. Chen Yu sighed after hearing this. Indeed, although he knew that there would be no such things without superheroes, but the one by one, still strengthened the hearts of the Avengers more and more. It is also increasingly shaking Chen Yu's view that superheroes should not exist. Not to mention the Battle of New York, Chen Yu can argue that it was because they scooped up Rogers, a superhero, that they found that the cosmic cube attracted Loki. If you don't look for Rogers, you won't find the cosmic cube. But what about the star-swallowing thing? No superhero will come like the other party, right? Can governments alone really manage to swallow stars? Or will Silver Surfers continue to save lives on Earth when it matters? This star-swallowing incident made Chen Yu shake his thoughts a little, feeling that superheroes still need to exist. It is precisely because of this that Chen Yu, who originally had a fight with Rogers after grabbing Red Cloud and was about to quit, did not quit the Avengers, and wanted to go out to help these people when it was really dangerous. But not to deal with terrorists, right? Can terrorists destroy the planet? It's just a few people killed, and it is estimated that there are not many kills, a dozen or 20. Not bad, just a dozen or 20. Even less, this is the news statistics of terrorists who typically cause casualties in a single operation. And Rogers them. Each of their actions is estimated to have elicited a strong counterattack from terrorists. And terrorists who feel that there is no hope of escaping will use ordinary people as threats and other methods to save their lives, thus bringing higher damage. The Avengers fought up. It was not as simple as a dozen or 20 casualties. At the Alliance press conference, the three parties made it clear to the media that they would not interfere in the internal affairs of the other two parties. It's just to help each other better protect the world, information sharing. This has given governments a little peace of mind, as they don't care about Fantastic Four and Doctor Strange. Because neither is much of a move. But the Avengers side is different. Through some contact with the Avengers, when the Avengers all move into the new Avengers training base, they will begin to strike terrorists around the world. This is doing what the armies of various countries should do, and it is a headache for all countries. The three-way alliance on this day ended in the national commotion, and Chen Yu no longer paid attention to the affairs of the Avengers, and began to accompany and take care of Hannah with all his strength. The two went shopping every day, fighting, watching horror movies, and then calling their families to eat from time to time, and they were so happy. After 5 months like this, Hannah's stomach has puffed out a lot. Chen Yu was disappointed to find that the child did not inherit the ability of meatballs, so he began to hesitate to give the child superpowers. In the end, Chen Yu still decided to transmit energy to the child, so that the child has superpowers. This world is the Marvel world, and it is safer to have superpowers. You can't blindly protect. Don't let children contact superheroes and the like. Children will grow up on their own, will have their own ideas, and should go with the flow. Chen Yu already knew that the child was a boy, so he wanted to go with the flow, and the boy should have his own responsibility, and even if he was frivolous when he was young, he couldn't suffer any losses. Besides, there is no Chen Yu here. And the child has superpowers and can also protect his family with Chen Yu, and this child is Chen Yu's most solid ally. There are no betrayed allies, which is much stronger than the relationship between Chen Yu and Tony. So every day, Hannah would sit on the sofa for an hour, leaning her head on Chen Yu's shoulder, watching Chen Yu put her hand on her stomach and deliver the energy of the mind gem to the child in her stomach. Chen Yu also felt that with the transmission of energy, the child became stronger and stronger, and an energy was generated in the child's body, which traveled in the child's body. Energy-type superpowers, Chen Yu thought with a little disappointment. In fact, Chen Yu wants children to get physical superpowers, such as Wanda and Pietro and the Fantastic Four. Wanda and the Invisible Woman and the Burning Man are the energy-type super, and Throw and Reed and the Stone Man are the body type. It's not that Chen Yu feels that the energy type can't work. The destructive power of the anti-energy type is stronger, but the energy type is easy to be restrained, and it is not easy to escape if the fight cannot be won, too. If the body type is superpowered, Chen Yu can greatly improve the child's physical strength as long as he uses the subtle bounce of the meatball when the child is young, so that the child's body can quickly burst out. Then find a way to pass on the domineering color of armed color and sight color to the child. If it is an energy-type superpower, even if it has two-color domineering, when it can't beat the enemy, it is difficult to run, and the speed is slow bhbb. Of course, it may also be an energy-type superpower like the Invisible Woman and the Burning Man, who have a high degree of mobility. But if you don't resist this, you can't hide. Thinking of this, Chen Yu felt a little annoyed. If only there were 2 red clouds, so that he could prepare one for the child. It seems that only by waiting for the child to be born to see what kind of superpower it is, and then wait for Thanos to come to see if so many Infinity Stones can grab one more for the child to refine. Chen Yu can be said to have broken his heart for the future of this child. I hope the child can have a powerful ability. Chen Yu could only hope so. After April, Chen Yu's home. Chen Yu walked around the living room irritably, looking upstairs from time to time at the bedroom door. At this time, Hannah's cry of pain was heard inside. Xiao Yu, don't shake it, it's annoying me, come and sit down. Chen Yu's father, Chen Shang, sat on the sofa and spoke impatiently to make Chen Yu calm down. On the sand next to Chen Shang, Chen Yu and Hannah's family were there at this time, and Mother Wang Yang and Hannah's mother were also a little anxious. But unlike Chen Yu, he couldn't sit still. Western life is still not as nervous about women giving birth to children, and Western women's bodies are somewhat strong, and many women can get out of bed to celebrate after giving birth. Dad, it's been 2 hours, why can't you come out? It won't be an accident, right? Quote. Chen Yu said worriedly. A month ago, When Hannah was approaching her due date, Pepper invited a female doctor and 2 female nurses to stay at Chen Yu's house. The female doctor was an expert in helping wealthy women deliver babies and check the health of babies. She also didn't expect that this time it was actually the wife of the superhero Tyrant Bear who was going to give birth, and when she first arrived at Chen Yu's house, she was still more restrained. But after a month of familiarity, she found that Chen Yu and Hannah are very good people to get along with, and Chen Yu is different from the indifference rumored by the outside world. Not long after breakfast today, Hannah felt a pain in her stomach, and the female doctor saw that the amniotic water was broken, so she and her assistant immediately helped Hannah deliver the baby. 2 hours is indeed a bit long. I remember that when your mother gave birth to Xiao Wen, it was only 30 minutes of spontaneous delivery. Chen Shang was also a little worried. At this moment, the exclamations of several female doctors and the crying of children suddenly came from the upstairs room, including Hannah's voice. Chen Yu couldn't wait any longer at this time, and instantly appeared at the door of the room, opened the door and rushed in. But at this time, the picture of the room made Chen Yu's footsteps stop. I saw Hannah lying weakly on the bed in the room, looking worriedly at the baby on a white table next to her. The platform under the baby is slowly being frozen, and white frost covers the entire table little by little. And the walls around the room are also covered with frost that is slowly spreading. The female doctor and her 2 female assistants hid next to Hannah as if frightened. This is a child's superpower. Freeze. Is it like the Iceman in the X-Police? Or is it like the pheasant in the Pirates? Single quote. Chen Yu looked at all this in front of him, and actually thought out of his mind. Little bear, let's see what's going on with our son. Hannah saw that Chen Yu was actually looking there in a daze after rushing in, and couldn't help but say out loud. Oh, it's okay, it's our child's superpower. I knew he had superpowers when he was still in your belly, I just didn't know what it was. Chen Yu reacted at this time and hurriedly stepped forward to check on the child. Through seeing and hearing Chen Yu, he found that the child was very healthy, and the sound made by his body was also very powerful, and it seemed that his superpowers should be very powerful. Now the child's ability to send out is just a little uneasiness in the instinct of the newborn, as long as it is calmed with the mind gem. Chen Yu gently stepped forward and slowly tapped the child's forehead with his hand, communicating with the heart gem to calm the child's emotions. The little guy calmed down under Chen Yu's comfort, looked at Chen Yu with wide eyes and curiosity, and his little hands and feet were striking in the air. Hannah, look, my son's eyes really look like you. Chen Yu carefully picked up the child and came to Hannah's bed and sat down slowly. Well, but the ears and nose are like you. Hannah couldn't help but smile when she saw her child looking at the world with big cute eyes. Hannah, it's really hard for you. You are the most given to me by heaven. I want to thank God for letting me meet you that night. Chen Yu looked pale and full of distress. No, I am most lucky to meet you. I don't know how many people envy me. Hannah smiled and shook her head, reaching out and touching Chen Yu's face. Then Hannah asked Chen Yu with some concern, Little bear, do you know that the child has superpowers? It's going to be okay, right? Why didn't you tell me earlier? Quote. Well, I have long known that I used my strength to trigger the power in the little one's body, so he has superpowers. Didn't I let you take an hour a day to let me touch your stomach? That is to induce the child's superpowers. Not telling you is afraid that you are worried. Chen Yu explained. Oh, but how can our children have superpowers in their bodies? Was it inherited to him because you were born with superpowers? But he doesn't have meatballs on his hands. Quote. Hannah looked at the little guy's 2 fleshy little hands. Well, it's genetic, but the superpowers are different. It seems that our son's ability should be superpowers like freezing. Chen Yu didn't want to be too troublesome to explain that it was the superpower given by the mind gem, so he decided to say that it was genetics. Otherwise, if Rogers and they know, I don't know if they will let Chen Yu give others superpowers. Although Wanda and Vision, now everyone knows that the mind gem gives superpowers. But Wanda and Pietro are the only 2 of thousands of children to survive, and Vision has a special situation. No one would have thought that Chen Yu would dare to do this to his son. No one would have thought that Chen Yu had completely controlled and refined the soul gem in the past 10 months. Yes, now that Chen Yu has thoroughly refined the mind gem, his physical strength and tricolor domineering have exploded dozens of times, and this is not the limit. Chen Yu's soul is still increasing, and the enhancement of soul strength is equal to the enhancement of the three-color domineering, and Chen Yu's subtle elasticity can also keep the body with the pace of the soul. Now Chen Yu can be said to be the strongest person on the earth. Chen Yu can kill Thor casually with his body alone. As for Hulk, it is a little difficult to kill. The main thing is that I don't know if the Hulk, who pierced his head or something, will die, and if he waits for the Hulk to be strong, Chen Yu may not be able to fight. But according to the progress of Chen Yu and Hulk against Hulk enhancement last time, it is estimated that Chen Yu will not be able to beat Chen Yu in less than 10 hours of slow enhancement. So Chen Yu should now be the strongest on Earth, and as for how strong Chen Yu can be when Thanos comes to Earth, Chen Yu himself can't say well. After letting the female doctor examine the children, Chen Yu sent them to move out. Because Chen Yu does not need a doctor, he can check the health status of his child at any time, and he can pop up with the direct ability to activate the disease. And Chen Yu knew that the things that his child was born capable of would definitely be passed on through this female doctor, so he didn't bother to explain it anymore. Later, Chen Yu's parents, younger siblings, and Hannah's mother also came to see their grandchildren and nephews. Knowing that his nephew was born with superpowers, Chen Wen and Hannah's younger brother were envious. Chen Shang knew that this world was somewhat dangerous, so he didn't say anything about his grandson's superpowers. As long as you don't become a superhero. However, Wang Yang and Hannah's mother were a little worried, but they were also relieved under Chen Yu's comfort. After all, this family is now the backbone of Chen Yu, and the outside world also says that Chen Yu is very powerful. Since he said that it is okay, it is estimated that nothing will happen. The next day, Chen Yu really received a call from Tony and asked Chen Yu to go to the new Avengers training base. Chen Yu didn't say anything, and as soon as his ability moved, he came to the living room of the new Avengers training base. At this time, the Avengers gathered together to discuss the issue of Chen Yu's child's ability, and when he saw Chen Yu appear, Rogers immediately asked, "Chen Yu, I heard that your child inherited your talent and was born with superpowers. Inherited your ability to bounce everything." Quote. It is no wonder that Rogers cares so much, knowing that if Chen Yu's child inherits Chen Yu's ability, then after passing Chen Yu's teaching, he will be a super strong person with amazing defensive invincibility and mobility. This will be of great help to face that cosmic powerhouse in the future. No, my son's ability is the ability to freeze. It is difficult to say to what extent. Chen Yu explained. Oh, so, don't you know how to use your abilities? Any thoughts on your son's abilities? Quote. Rogers was a little disappointed after hearing this, and then asked Chen Yu expectantly. I don't have any ideas for the time being. I'll talk about it when my son grows up, and I don't plan to let my son join the Avengers in the future. I will let him choose his own path, and you will have less contact with him. Behind speaking, Chen Yu's tone was faintly threatening. Tony looked at Rogers, who was a little embarrassed after hearing Chen Yu's words, and quickly said to Chen Yu, "Don't worry, we will also respect the child's choice in the future." In fact, before Chen Yu's arrival, Rogers was discussing with others the possibility of letting Chen Yu's son join the Avengers in the future. After all, Chen Yu's son joined the Avengers, and Jace carried out a little love education, so in the future, Chen Yu will not be firmly tied to the Avengers. If Chen Yu knew what Rogers thought he wanted, it would be nice not to disband the Avengers and still think about a better future. By the way, Tony, next month I am full moon. We set up this. When the time comes, you will give my son as a godfather, Pepper as a godmother. This is what I have already said to Pepper. After Chen Yu finished speaking, he looked at the others and said, at that time, everyone, my son's full moon, I am ready to make a big deal, but I will not invite unrelated people. No problem, I'll bring all the Avengers with me then. Rogers agreed happily. Well, thank you then, Tony, you come with me. I have something to say to you alone. Chen Yu thanked everyone and said to Tony again. Oh, okay, let's go to Stark Building, Tony said. Since Rogers and they moved into the new Avengers training base, Tony has changed the name of the Avengers building back to the previous Stark Building. Well, good. Chen Yu finished speaking, and without waiting for everyone to react, he got himself and Tony to the Avengers mansion. Rogers, Chen Yu doesn't seem to be very optimistic about our new Avenger. After Chen Yu left, Falcon Sam, who had the best relationship with Rogers, said seriously to Rogers. Well, I haven't been able to see through what Chen Yu is thinking, but as far as the current situation is concerned, we have been very successful in fighting terrorists these times, and we have also received the support of some people, although the battle has affected some ordinary people, but they are all under control. Rogers was very puzzled. Since the Sokovia War, Chen Yu retired and dissuaded Rogers from caring about ordinary people's affairs, which made Rogers unable to guess Chen Yu's thoughts. Here, Tony, who appeared in the Stark building, complained after a moment, "Baby bear, I didn't take my coat. I'm looking for you. I want you to help me with something," Chen Yu said straight to the point. "What the hell is about? Is it worth you to find me so solemnly?" Quote. Tony put away his joking expression and wondered. "I would like to ask you to study a set of equipment for my son to use in the future to enhance my son's mobility." Chen Yu looked at Tony. "God, your son has only been born a day, and you want to equip him. Can he wear it when he is ready?" Quote. Tony felt powerless to complain. "No, of course not now. In a few years it will be fine. When the time comes, once my son masters the ability, he can use it, and it is best to be familiar with equipment from an early age." Chen Yu said solemnly. "Hey, seriously, the question is, if he mastered it at the age of 5 or 6, would he have to equip him all the time? He redoes it when he grows up. Wait until he's 17 years old." Tony felt tired. "No, the equipment I want you to make is not simple. I know that you and the Avengers' new ally, Doctor Strange, have a good chat. I wonder what you are talking about." In Tony's phone calls with Chen Yu in recent months, he has always expressed his importance for Steven and praised Steven several times. This made Chen Yu easily guess that the two of them should be very chatty, and Chen Yu also guessed a few points about the topic of conversation. "Of course, it's about the difference and commonality between technology and magic, don't you mean?" Tony said without caring at first, and then suddenly looked at Chen Yu with wide eyes and guessed something. "Yes, I saw my son's ability yesterday and knew some information through perception. What do you say is the weakness of the frozen ability?" Chen Yu looked at Tony sharply. "High temperature energy. Physically fragile. Poor maneuverability." Tony thought for a moment and said uncertainly. "Not bad, but I have carefully observed my child. The first two weaknesses do not matter. His ability is not simple, but mobility is definitely a big weakness." Chen Yu carefully observed his son yesterday and found that the energy of the little guy's body came from the soul, and was slowly assimilating and strengthening the body. What does this mean? This shows that the little guy can definitely be elementalized in the future, and these energies will affect the character of the little guy, which is simply a replica of the pheasant. And although it can be elementalized, it does not mean that the little guy's ability is ice, but the same freezing as the pheasant, a world of difference. Freezing and ice, these two abilities are not a grade at all. The freezing power is absolutely powerful. So the first two weaknesses mentioned by Tony are not weaknesses, high temperature energy, as long as the ability is strong and frozen. As for the physical fragility and other little guys can be elementalized, it is not a weakness. Other people in this world are not armed with color domineering, they can't attack elemental little guys, and they can only be effective if they attack with a wide range of energy. Moreover, Chen Yu will find a way to teach the little guy domineering power, and will also enhance the little guy's physical strength with subtle bounces. The little one's energy comes from the soul, so the soul is very strong, so that the limit on the strength of the body will not be at the human limit. That is to say, the body can be strengthened to the extent that it is equal to the soul, and as far as Chen Yu estimates through the little guy's soul strength, the body can be strengthened to at least 7 times the level of Rogers. In this way, the third weakness will become the Achilles heel of the little one. Maneuverability. So Chen Yu was thinking of a solution all night, although it would definitely feel too early to think about these others, but Chen Yu would be relieved to think about it early. Red Cloud is no second one, and the soul gem has also been refined by Chen Yu. Then it remains only to manipulate the equipment. And there is a problem with equipment. Chen Yu doesn't know if the little guy's elementalization can be elementalized like the green pheasant in the future, and even the clothes and equipment are elementalized together. If it doesn't work, it's not good to give any equipment, one elementalization, and the equipment landed. Chen Yu thought about it, and suddenly thought that Tony and Steven were very chatty. If technology and magic can be combined, then it is possible to make the little guy elementalize with equipment. Since it's poor mobility, what equipment do you want? Make your son a flying machine like Sam. Quote. Tony said, and was a little puzzled why Chen Yu was not worried about his son's first two weaknesses. My son can be elementalized in the future, Chen Yu saw Tony's doubts and explained. Elementalization. Is that the kind of incarnation that you told Johnny about being immune to physical attacks with fire? Tony was surprised. Well, my son can transform into ice, and can develop to the point that it becomes a very small ice residue that is difficult to see and dissipates in the air, but his ability is frozen. Tony's eyes widened. Frozen. No wonder you don't worry about the first two weaknesses, but it's also troublesome to encounter a large-scale energy attack, right? That's why you want to improve mobility. Quote. Yes, I thought about it. I asked you and Steven to help me make a device together. If there are some difficulties that cannot be broken, I will go and get Hank Pym's Pym particles. Then go find some vibranium. Didn't you say that your dad told you that vibranium is the most versatile metal? Just use vibranium. There was a fierce light in Chen Yu's eyes. Tony knew at a glance that if Hank Pym did not give Pym particles, or Wakanda did not give vibranium, Chen Yu would definitely use force. What kind of equipment do you want? Do you really want to dress your son when he is a child? I even want Pym particles. Tony wants to dissuade Chen Yu. You know, that Hank Pym is the person who hates their Stark family the most. I'm not sure yet. I can't be sure until my son can be elementalized. It's possible that the elementalization of the little guy can be elementalized with clothes and equipment, then there is no need for Pym particles and vibranium. Even the clothes and equipment are elemental. Is this possible? Tony didn't believe it. Yes, now talk about the equipment I want. I need the kind of equipment that can glide fast on the ice and have my own motivation, and I can't do it on my son alone. And if you have power, you can slide upside down along the house or something, etc. Chen Yu also suddenly remembered a 3D cartoon The Incredibles he watched in his previous life last night, and there was an ice vault man in it with this kind of equipment. Okay, I know these better than you, I'll think about it, but I still have something to do in the past 2 years, call me when your son can be elementalized. Tony couldn't help but interrupt when he looked at Chen Yu. As soon as Chen Yu said the ice skating Tony, he had already guessed the effect Chen Yu wanted to achieve. Yes, this is indeed the most suitable for Chen Yu's son. When Chen Yu heard Tony's words, he knew that he was too anxious and a little embarrassed. But no wonder Chen Yu, he has been a human in 2 lifetimes, and this life is even more powerful. This suddenly has a child. Chen Yu, who has not been a father, wants to prepare everything for the child first. Oh, okay, I'll look for you in a few years after my son has mastered his superpowers, Chen Yu said. Well, don't worry, what your son says is also my godson, I will definitely pay attention. Tony could see Chen Yu's eagerness, and came over and patted Chen Yu's shoulder. Well, thanks. By the way, Tony, what do you think the Avengers have in mind in fighting terrorists these months? Chen Yu suddenly asked after thanking Tony. When Tony heard this, an obscure light flashed in his eyes and said, Baby Bear, what do you say countries will do? Quote. Tony understood why Chen Yu asked this. Don't look at the Avengers' smooth sailing in recent months, but the more this happens, the more it will trigger the shots of various countries. The Avengers are Tony's brainchild, and Tony wants to save as much as possible. Oh, do you see some? But can you see a future split? Tony, Chen Yu directly pointed out. Split? No, at most, countries let us sign some agreements to constrain us, as long as we sign. Tony said this, his face suddenly changed, and finally thought of the key question. Thought of it. This is the action of the countries, maybe they don't know that it will divide you, but the split is inevitable. Can you convince Rogers? Quote. Chen Yu directly told Tony that the Avengers would split, just to make Tony die, and the Avengers couldn't save it like this. It's true that Rogers won't budge on this kind of thing, but I'll try my best to save it then. Baby Bear, you can help me. After figuring it out, Tony hurriedly said to Chen Yu, as long as Chen Yu stood on his side, then when things really reached the step of getting out of hand, he could also suppress Rogers with Chen Yu's powerful power. Don't worry, I will be on your side, but you know that once you suppress them forcefully through me, the split of the Avengers is also a foregone conclusion. Tony nodded silently when he heard this, and didn't say anything. Tony knew in his heart that letting Chen Yu take the hand to forcibly suppress would cause the Avengers to split, but if it really came to the time when Chen Yu was needed, it meant that the Avengers had actually split. But Chen Yu's side is of great significance, at least it can make the people on Roger's side seriously consider it, and Wanda also has a high chance of standing on Chen Yu's side. Then at that time, Roger's side will actually not be strong. After all, Chen Yu and Roddy will definitely be on their side, and Vision is the same. The current Vision is a little different from the Vision in the original movie. Jarvis has more shadows, and listens to Tony's words very much. And Wanda, a powerful capable person, is also very likely to stand on his side because of Chen Yu's existence. The only people Tony has in mind who will side with Rogers are Sam and Natasha, and if Hawkeye does not retire, he should also be on their side. If Banner is still there, he may also side with Rogers. But now, it's just Rogers and Sam. I have to say that Tony's idea is very good, but in fact, even Chen Yu is not sure that Wanda will be on his side. Of course, if Chen Yu said to Wanda that he wanted her to stand on his side, it was estimated that Wanda would probably agree, but Chen Yu did not want this. Chen Yu wants Wanda to choose her own position. Thinking of this, Chen Yu looked at Tony and said, "Then so be it, let's go." After saying that, Chen Yu disappeared, leaving Tony alone standing in place and thinking. After returning home, Chen Yu and Hannah watched the little one by the crib, and chatted about what would happen to his son when he was older. After Hannah gave birth yesterday, Chen Yu ejected Hannah's fatigue pain, so that Hannah could get out of bed at once. However, Chen Yu's mother Wang Yang was not allowed, and she was still taking care of Hannah until she left late. And Chen Yu's family has also hired 2 maids to clean the room, cook and so on 7 months ago, and both of them are very down to earth. Chen Yu's salary was also very high for them, which made the 2 maids very grateful and sincerely served Chen Yu and Hannah. A month later, the little one is not as zombling as he was at the beginning, very scary, and he will babble when he sees people. Let Chen Yu and Hannah love it. This day was also the day of the full moon of the little guy. Chen Yu invited many people, and Hannah, who had already calculated the number of people, knew that this medium villa must not have enough places. "So I contacted Pepper a dozen days ago and bought a 70,000 square meter super mansion estate in California with a small lake and woods worth $600 million. And quickly moved in, and the house where he used to live, because his sister Chen Wen is also studying at Midtown High School, said that he lived for his sister. As for Chen Yu's parents and Hannah's mother, the two have long changed large villas. And this mansion also made Chen Yu hire 15 more servants, 5 men and 10 women, and also found an old housekeeper Eric with a high salary. This old housekeeper is very capable, takes care of the house in an orderly manner, and manages the maid very well, which makes Chen Yu and Hannah very satisfied. Hannah, on the other hand, called the 2 former assistants over and began to deal with some matters of Chen Yu's property at home. At this time, the guests have arrived one after another. There are the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, and the friends of Doctor Strange and Chen Yu's family, and former classmates who Chen Yu and Hannah are still in contact with. Peter Parker is among them, but unlike in the movie, Gwen Stacy is not dead and is here today, but she and Parker have long broken up. After Gwen came, she pulled Hannah to chat happily, and after seeing the baby, she was envious of Hannah and gave her own gifts and some toys. Chen Yu's son was named Chen Lin by Chen Shang, Lin or Phoenix Pith, which means that Chen Lin is the person who passed on the incense of the Chen family, and Lin Duo refers to boys. Chen Lin's English name, Doflamingo Chen, was taken by Hannah's mother. Chen Yu almost peed at that time, why not Don Quixote? But endure. When asked why Hannah's mother chose this name, she couldn't say why, except that people with this name generally have a presence. Chen Yu and Hannah's classmates have gained a lot of knowledge. First of all, when they first came to Chen Yu's house, this oversized manor mansion shocked them, and then almost all the superheroes made these ordinary people smack their tongues. This is the full moon wine of their classmate, the superhero tyrant Bear Sun. After sighing, these people also found people who admired more to take a photo or something. Fortunately, there are only more than 30 people, otherwise the Fantastic Four and the Avengers must not be annoyed to death. This time it was a banquet-style full moon wine, that is, the banquet in the West where you walk around and eat by yourself and find someone to chat with yourself. While everyone was eating and drinking, Chen Yu and Hannah held Chen Lin and walked to the middle and said loudly, "Welcome everyone to participate in my son Chen Lin's full moon. I would like to thank you here, first do it." Chen Yu saw that everyone stopped the movement in their hands, and after seeing it, he smiled and drank all the wine in his hand. Then looked at the people around him and said, "Actually, let everyone come this time. There is one more thing to say, that is, I am ready to cultivate my son, so don't come to me again if you have nothing to do." Everyone looked at Chen Yu facing the Avenger next to him, knowing that these words were all for the Avenger, although they were a little puzzled, but they didn't say anything. After all, this is people's own business. On the Avenger's side, Roger's face sank after hearing this, but he didn't say anything. After all, Chen Yu has a child, and it is normal to think about living an ordinary life. Wanda, on the other hand, looked at Chen Yu aggrievedly, and saw that Chen Yu's face was ashamed but firm, knowing that Chen Yu was determined to stay at home for a few years. Suddenly, his face turned pale and he lowered his head, forcing tears not to come out. Of course, Chen Yu saw Wanda's helpless look, but Chen Yu didn't know what to do. Hannah gave birth to a child for herself, and Chen Yu couldn't abandon their mother and son to find Wanda. At least not in recent years, which is a crucial time to lay the foundation for Chen Lin. Chen Yu decided to leave nothing at all, and was always at home, giving Chen Lin subtle movements every day to improve Chen Lin's physical strength. And find a way to send some more energy to Chen Lin to see if he can improve some of Chen Lin's soul strength. The most important thing is that Chen Yu decided to study some physical skills for his son. After all, Chen Yu's current physical strength can already restore the naval 6 style in the pirate through memory. It's just that Chen Yu himself has not needed it much. But now that he has a son, Chen Yu is ready to study the Navy 6 and pass it on to his son. After all, walking in rivers and lakes, many skills do not weigh down. Then there is the 3-color domineering, how to pass it to others. Chen Yu didn't even touch a little hair. However, armed color and seeing and smelling color are the key to Chen Lin's vertical and horizontal in the future, especially seeing and hearing color. Chen Yu must think of a way to let Chen Lin awaken to see and smell color. After Chen Yu said some more words of thanks in the middle of the banquet, he called the Avengers, Fantastic Four and Steven to a living room on the 2nd floor. After seeing that everyone had found a place to sit down, he said, "I hope everyone understands me. These years are the most important years for my son. I want to train with all my strength, and I want to study some new moves to teach my son. After all, Liner has not inherited my ability. I am afraid that he will be in danger in the future, so I can only be sorry for you." Chen Yu's words were very sincere, so that everyone did not know what to say. Chen Yu looked at Wanda, hoping that Wanda could understand. Wanda saw Chen Yu's appearance. His face was better, knowing that these years were indeed the key time for Chen Yu's son, and his heart was finally much better. Roger sighed after hearing this. "Since this is the case, then we will definitely not disturb you, but you must remember that you are also a member of the Avengers. If the world has a big trouble, please be sure to shoot." The others also looked at Chen Yu burning when they heard this. After all, Chen Yu is now a real power, and whether he makes a move or not is crucial. "Don't worry, I'm not stupid. Is the world going to destroy me and I only care about teaching my son?" Chen Yu didn't think about it at all, and said directly. When everyone heard it, if the world was going to be destroyed, and teach Mao's son, Chen Yu could not make a move, so they were all relieved. "Well, I'm also going to remedy the mistakes I made with Ultron in the past few years, so Rogers, the Avengers depend on you." Tony also stood up and said. Now the Fantastic Four and Steven both understood. The feelings of these two are semi-retired, then Rogers will be the only leader of the Avengers in the future. 4 years flew by. 4 years have passed since the last full moon of Chen Lin. In the past 4 years, Chen Yu has accompanied Hannah at home, watching Chen Lin's growth, from babbling toddlers to later calling his parents and running around the yard. All this made Chen Yu feel amazing, and his heart was more sublimated. Seeing and hearing the domineering color gradually became invisible, more quiet and sensitive. At this time, in the courtyard, Xiao Chen Lin, who was already 4 years old and went to kindergarten, was quickly attacking Chen Yu. I saw Xiao Chen Lin's figure constantly flickering in the courtyard, and from time to time he flicked his legs at Chen Yu from a distance, and one crescent-shaped land foot quickly shot towards Chen Yu. And Chen Yu stood motionless in place, and even the armed color domineering was useless to resist these land feet, but he only cut through Chen Yu's clothes. On Chen Yu's skin, nothing was left and disappeared. Xiao Chen Lin in the distance was also strange. he knew that he could not hurt his invincible father, so he launched a shaving and came to Chen Yu and launched a finger gun at Chen Yu's thigh. Chen Yu was afraid that the finger gun that hit him would hurt Chen Lin, so he quickly grabbed Chen Lin's small hand, and then touched Xiao Chen Lin's cute little head lovingly with the other hand. Okay, Liner, it's almost the same today, your speed has increased a bit, but it's not enough, let's go back to eat first, don't make your mother wait. Xiao Chen Lin enjoyed Chen Yu's touch, and then threw himself into Chen Yu's arms as if coquettishly and said, Dad will take me back. Chen Yu knew that Chen Lin was going to cheat again, but he still pretended not to know and picked up Chen Lin and prepared to walk to the house. At this moment, Chen Yu's body began to freeze, and Chen Yu was frozen into an ice sculpture in a tight moment, and then Chen Lin jumped down from Chen Yu with satisfaction. Chen Lin yawned and looked at the ice sculpture in front of him sleepily. HMPH, let you wake me up so early, it's almost noon now, I haven't slept enough. Then Chen Lin waited next to Chen Yu to break the ice, but after waiting for a long time, there was no movement from the ice sculpture. Chen Lin's slightly hazy sleepy eyes suddenly became a little flustered, and he smiled and shouted to the ice sculpture, Dad, come out quickly, I'm hungry. But after shouting for a long time, there was still no movement from the ice sculpture, and Chen Lin, who was becoming more and more uneasy, finally couldn't help but sit on the ground and cry. Mom, Dad is dead, wow, Dad was killed by me, wow. Xiao Chen Lin sat on the grass and cried, but it alarmed the servants next to him, and those servants hurriedly came over to comfort Chen Lin while looking at Chen Yu's ice sculpture with some confusion. These servants all know that Chen Yu is a superhero tyrant bear, and Chen Yu's son Chen Lin is also a natural superpower, born with freezing ability, which everyone knows. Every day, Chen Yu would bring Chen Lin over to exercise, and these maids were not surprised. But this time the maid came over and saw Chen Lin sitting on the ground crying, and saying things like killing his father, and Chen Yu next to him also turned into an ice sculpture. This made the maid who came to see the situation almost frightened, and pressed the emergency button on the headset and said, Madam, something happened, you come to the yard to take a look. Hannah had just finished her official job at this time, thinking that Chen Yu and her son were almost finished training, and was preparing to go down to have lunch with their father and son. As a result, he suddenly heard the voice of the maid in the room saying that something was wrong, so he hurriedly ran to the courtyard to see the situation. After Hannah arrived, she saw Chen Lin crying underground, and Chen Yu next to him turned into an ice sculpture. Hannah was not in a hurry now, but a little funny, and then a teasing smile appeared on her face. Hannah doesn't believe that Chen Yu will be killed by her son, and Hannah knows how powerful Chen Yu is. Chen Lin saw Hannah coming, and immediately pounced on Hannah. Wow, Mom, Dad was killed by me, what to do, wow, you quickly save Dad. Hannah patted Chen Lin's back and said, Liner doesn't cry, your father will die when he dies, let's go to eat first, and then come to bury your father, okay? Quote. The maid next to her suddenly snorted when she heard Hannah's words, and looked at Hannah in horror and unable to speak. Chen Lin also broke free from Hannah's embrace, looked at Hannah incredulously, and said, What? Mom, what are you talking about? Hurry up and save Dad, it hasn't been frozen for a long time, it should be able to save, and Dad's body is so strong, it's still time. Hannah forced a smile, her face sad. It's useless, the freezing temperature of your superpower is too low, it takes a long time to thaw, and it is already helpless. How come, how come, Mom you lied to me, Dad is so powerful, how can it die so easily, last time Dad easily broke my ability. Chen Lin still couldn't believe that his invincible father died at his hands like this. Looking at Chen Lin, who was crying, Hannah finally couldn't bear it, hugged Chen Lin distress-edly, and said to the ice sculpture next to him, Don't play, watch your son cry. Haha, I'm educating him not to use his abilities indiscriminately. The ice sculpture suddenly exploded, and Chen Yu walked out from inside with a smile that was unharmed. Abominable, Dad you lied to me, and Mom, you two ganged up to lie to me, it's really abominable, hateful. Seeing this scene, Chen Lin, who didn't know that he had been deceived, pouted and looked at Chen Yu and Hannah angrily. Chen Yu smiled, walked over and picked up his son and put it on his shoulder for him to sit before saying, Liner, although your superpower is very powerful, there is a disadvantage that you can only freeze and cannot solve, so I want you to know not to use superpowers indiscriminately on relatives and friends. Chen Yu comforted his good son with a gentle caress, and said with a little seriousness. Chen Lin, who has been a little precocious since childhood, also sat on his father's shoulder obediently at this time and said, and then there was no sound. Chen Yuzhang was strange, turned his head to look at Hannah, who had a strange smile, and his face suddenly darkened. You slept again, hurry up for Lao Su to eat. Chen Yu slapped Chen Lin's butt, and his palm covered domineering. Oh, sorry, who let Dad sleep so well on his shoulders, I accidentally fell asleep. But Dad, it really hurts when you hit me, and I don't feel it when others hit me. Chen Lin wiped his saliva, but the answer made Chen Yu look at Hannah helplessly and said, let's go, eat. Alas, this kid is really lazy. Chen Lin has been more sensible than other children since he was a child, and he never causes trouble in school, and sometimes he will not fight back when others bully Chen Lin. In Chen Lin's words, it can't hurt me anyway, which makes Chen Yu very proud, knowing that this child will definitely not be deceived by others when he grows up in the future, and he must have his own ideas. But what made Chen Yu helpless was that because of the influence of superpowers, although Chen Lin was very sensible since he was a child, he was also lazy. Moreover, everything is perfunctory, except for being more serious when practicing with Chen Yu. He is passable in other things, and he also likes to sleep in. This was not a big deal in Chen Yu's opinion, the strong one. There is nothing wrong with living the way he likes. But after a long time, looking at his son every day like he couldn't wake up, anyone else would feel upset. MD, still don't put me in the eye. Chen Yu was helpless in his heart. I want to teach a lesson, it's useless. Chen Lin is still like that after the lesson, and Chen Yu can't bear to teach a lesson ruthlessly, plus Hannah loves Chen Lin very much, so Chen Yu has no bird. Moreover, Chen Lin is also very smart, knows how to use Hannah to restrain Chen Yu, and is also very talented in cultivation, which makes Chen Yu happy and a little unhappy at the same time. The three came to the restaurant to eat, and said to Chen Yu while eating Hannah, Little Bear, your Harry Potter movie has been made, and the value in it has almost reached the maximum. Recently there was a company that wanted to make a remake of Harry Potter and wanted us to sell the rights to him, and I thought that would work, because after all, the remake may not make any money. The previous series was a classic, so I meant to sell it directly to him, and his bid was very reasonable. After hearing this, Chen Yu said indifferently, It's good that you are in charge of these things, you are my virtuous helper. After speaking, Chen Yu also ran over and kissed Hannah on the forehead. Oh, I'm going to move out when I'm 16, I can't stand you two, I'm going to find a girlfriend in class next year. Xiao Chen Lin saw the tired and crooked appearance of the two, and shouted dissatisfied. Haha, boy, it's strange that you find someone else to be a girlfriend and not be killed by people's parents. Last time that little fat man bullied you, he beat you and injured his own hand, I went there myself. Chen Yu said. Chen Lin once beat Chen Lin with a fat body in kindergarten, and as a result, he injured his hand. After all, Chen Lin's physical strength is now 4 times that of Roger's. But Chen Yu was no longer able to strengthen Chen Lin, because Chen Lin's body had not yet grown, so his current physical strength was already the limit. As a result, the little fat man went back to file a complaint, and the teacher and the parents of the little fat man did not believe that the little fat man could still hurt himself by beating Chen Lin. As a result, Chen Yu personally came forward and learned that Chen Lin was the son of the tyrant bear, and the teacher and the parents of the little fat man believed that the little fat man was bullying people himself. So he hurriedly apologized to Chen Yu. Chen Yu also ignored the other party at that time, and took Chen Lin away. After all, the sons of others beat their own son, although they couldn't hurt Chen Lin, but how could Chen Yu give the other party a good face? By the way, Tony sent me news that the Avengers have recently tracked down a terrorist mercenary to operate in Lagos, Nigeria. They are going to block. Something may happen to the Avengers in a few days, I may need to go and see it then. After Chen Yu ate a bite of meat, he suddenly remembered the news sent by Tony 2 days ago, and knew that the civil war was about to begin, so he looked at Hannah and said, How are you going to help fight that mercenary? Is that mercenary awesome? Quote. Hannah doesn't understand what happened to Chen Yu, a little mercenary, can't the Avenger take it down? Next to Chen Lin also looked at Chen Yu curiously. Tony is Chen Lin's godfather. Chen Lin has seen Tony many times, and every time Tony will make some fun little toys to bring to Chen Lin. There is also Pepper. Chen Lin is often seen. Sometimes Pepper and Hannah will take Chen Lin with them when they go shopping. Chen Lin knows that his father is a member of the Avengers, and news of the Avengers often appears on TV. 4 years ago, the Avengers were about to start cracking down on the terrorists. But because the new Avengers training base was built at that time, Rogers took the Avengers to train there for a year. When the run-in was almost over, just 3 years ago, the Avengers began to frequently dispatch attacks against terrorists. At first, people all over the world were very supportive of the Avengers, but every time they appeared, they brought some accidental injuries to ordinary people, as well as a lot of damage to buildings and economic losses. So slowly, ordinary people began to get bored, and more people called the new Avengers vigilante. Chen Yu didn't bother to care about this, and Rogers wouldn't listen to it. Tony, like Chen Yu, never shot again, but has been lecturing at top universities in various countries, setting up scholarships, and funding many meaningful student projects. This raised Tony's image a lot, and Tony did not participate in the Avengers' actions that bore the world. This caused a lot of people to shout at Rogers, "Can't you learn from Tony Stark and the Tyrant Bear? People will let the police do their job." But the Avengers still go their own way, and this time Tony not only brought Chen Yu information about Rogers and their actions. The most important thing is to let Chen Yu know that the United Nations has begun to act, and the new U.S. Secretary of State of the United States, Thaddeus Ross, is the General Ross who previously captured Hulk. He has already begun to communicate with Tony, ready to ask Tony to persuade the entire Avengers to sign the agreement, and this is not a request, but a must. Now there is only one opportunity to go, and that agreement will be put in front of the Avengers, and Chen Yu knows that this time Rogers and their action is this opportunity. No, it's that the government is ready to intervene in the Avengers, and as a member of the Avengers, I need to attend and decide with everyone the future direction of the Avengers. Chen Yu removed the stain from the corner of Chen Linjin's mouth and looked at Hannah and said, "Well, I have me at home, and Linner is very sensible, so don't worry," Hannah said softly. Chen Yu looked at Chen Lin again and said, "So, our man, can you protect your mother when your father is not at home?" Quote, Chen Lin is not the kind of child who is very easy to deceive, but after rolling his eyes at Chen Yu, he still said, "Don't worry, Dad, no one can hurt Mom." Chen Yu nodded with satisfaction. Even if there was an enemy who wanted to attack Chen Yu's house, it was best not to treat Chen Lin as an ordinary 4-year-old child. Chen Lin was already elementalized when he was 3 years old, and he could also elementalize his clothes. And the ability is strong. Chen Yu once took Chen Lin to the center of the Pacific Ocean, and then asked Chen Lin to use the ability as much as possible, and the result was that in less than 5 seconds, the sea surface that Chen Yu could see was all frozen. This is so powerful, and it does not mean that you need water Chen Lin to release ice, but you can make something out of nothing, and you can erect a thick ice wall at will and so on. It's simply the same as the ability of a pheasant. Moreover, Chen Lin also learned the Navy 6 style under the teaching of Chen Yu, and his physical strength is also very powerful. It can be said that Chen Lin is already a very powerful superhero. However, the domineering spirit of the 3 colors only awakened to see and smell, which only made Chen Lin awaken when Chen Yu consumed most of his own seeing and smelling. At that time, Chen Yu found that the power released by the mind gem Chen Lin could absorb some slowly, so when he exported the power of the soul gem to Chen Lin, he also integrated the color into it. As a result, Chen Lin's soul absorbed most of Chen Yu's sights at once, and then he could no longer absorb any energy. Chen Lin's soul strength also increased a lot at once and then fixed, and no matter how Chen Yu did it, he couldn't strengthen it again. Judging from the strength of Chen Lin's soul energy, Chen Yu's limit of his body after growing up was at most 15 times the strength of Rogers. But fortunately, Chen Lin's most powerful thing is always the freezing ability, and Chen Yu has not yet asked Tony to equip Chen Lin, because Chen Yu is waiting for an opportunity to get vibranium. Chen Yu remembers that after the Civil War, Rogers and his side were taken in by the new king of Wakanda, the Black Panther. Chen Yu is ready to go directly to them and ask for some vibranium when the time comes, and kill if he doesn't give it. I believe that Rogers, who knows Chen Yu's strength and character, will persuade the Panther to give Chen Yu some vibranium. With vibranium, Chen Lin's equipment will be more perfect in the future, and I have to say that Chen Yu is really a good father. As for a good husband, Chen Yu did not dare to say so. When some people in the world began to attack the Avengers on fishing boats 2 years ago, Wanda called Chen Yu, who listened to Wanda's aggrieved words at that time and rushed over to accompany Wanda for several days. This made Chen Yu feel very guilty about Hannah, but fortunately, Hannah didn't know that Chen Yu was cheating, otherwise Chen Yu wouldn't dare to face Hannah at all. Sure enough, early on the morning of the third day, Chen Yu was watching the news of the Avengers in Nigeria on TV. At this time, the news was about yesterday's Avengers operation. The big headline at the top of the screen reads, "Prosecuting the Avengers, Global Against Violence." The picture constantly flashes the scene of a building being thrown up by Wanda, who is stepping on the red cloud with his ability and throwing a human bomb up and exploding. Yesterday in Lagos, Nigeria, citizens of Wakanda were tragically killed in clashes between the Avengers and terrorist mercenaries. These isolated Wakanda were performing public service in Lagos at the time of the attack, the news anchor said, and the footage flashed with King of Wakanda's speech on the matter. The blood of our people was spilled on foreign territory, not only because of criminal acts, but also because of the indifference of those who prevented them. A victory at the expense of the innocent is not a victory at all. Another news said, what legal rights does a superpowered person like Wanda Maximoff have to act in Nigeria? We should regulate this kind of people. As soon as Chen Yu saw this, Tony's phone called. Baby bear, what I'm worried about has finally come. You go to the new Avengers base first to see Wanda. She is so kind, it must be uncomfortable. I will bring Rose over later, then take a step and see. Tony's voice was low. He had not had a good time in recent years, and he had no one around to comfort him after breaking up with Pepper, and he used his work every day to numb himself. Whenever a Sokovian rushes to Tony to accuse him, Tony feels a deep sense of guilt that he can't erase how much good he has done. Okay, I'll go first, Chen Yu said and hung up the phone. Chen Yu got up and kissed his son on the forehead on the sofa next to him, then hugged Hannah again and disappeared into the house. When Chen Yu appeared at the door of Wanda's room, Rogers was comforting Wanda. Blame me. Wanda sat on the edge of the bed aggrievedly, his face pale and hoarse. No. Rogers walked over to Wanda and sat down. Wanda didn't even think about it. Turn on the TV, they've already named them. I blame me for someone dying. This job, save as many people as possible, but sometimes it doesn't save everyone. Rogers said this, looked at his face full of shame, shook his head and continued softly, but if we can't accept this, next time, maybe none of us can save it. Then just save people, don't kill people. Yu's voice suddenly sounded next to the two. Chen Yu. After Wanda saw Chen Yu, she immediately shed water, and immediately threw herself into Chen Yu's arms and cried bitterly. Chen Yu hugged Wanda tightly with his backhand, patted her back and comforted, it's okay, it's not to blame you, it's not blamed at all. Chen Yu, what are you doing here? Rogers looked at Chen Yu, who suddenly appeared, surprised. Tony called me here, wait for us Avengers to have some things to do, Chen Yu said. Then without waiting for Rogers to ask Chen Yu, he said lightly, Captain, I said, you will regret it. Now, do you regret it? Quote. Regret. No, I did the right thing. Rogers was stunned for a moment, then said firmly. The right thing. And a war with mercenaries in the city. I'll tell you what to do. Chen Yu carried Wanda to the side of the bed and sat down, then looked at Rogers and said, you just need to save people in those places where earthquakes, tsunamis, and mudslides occur. Wanda is so kind, what are you doing when you run to fight? I think saving people is what she hopes to do. Chen Yu looked at Wanda so sad, a little annoyed. We are saving people, but it is difficult for us to save everyone. If you don't want Wanda to be sad, then join us, with your strength. If you participate in the operation this time, no one will die. Rogers is also very upset with Chen Yu, a person who clearly has the ability but does not act. HMPH. Quibbles, it's all about saving people. Why did you choose this method of fighting to save people? Are the lives of those who have suffered natural disasters worth the lives of those who are not threatened by war in your eyes? Quote. Of course not, life is all equally precious, Rogers roared. So why not choose to go to those places to save people? Admit it, Rogers, you just love to fight, you just live to fight. In that case, don't pull Wanda into the water. Chen Yu said disdainfully. You, how come I like to fight? I'm just here to protect more people. Rogers trembled with anger. Just as the two were about to continue arguing, Vision walked in from the doorway and said, "Well, it seems that I didn't come at the right time, but the captain, Mr. Rogers, said that as long as Tony comes, he will know." "Oh," I said, "thank you, Vision, I'll go down right away." Rogers took a deep breath and glanced at Chen Yu before saying. Vision turned around and was about to leave when he suddenly remembered something and turned around. "Oh, by the way, Tony also brought a guest." "Do you know who it is?" Rogers asked. "Guo Wuqing," Vision's speech, and left. Rogers looked at Chen Yu after seeing Vision leave. "You and Tony arrived at the same time, and there was also the state Wuqing. What is the situation?" Quote, "It's not that you guys made a big deal this time, just go and take a look." Chen Yu comforted Wanda, stood up, took Wanda's hand, stood up, and walked downstairs with Rogers. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.